pain. Did I let him walk alone? What am I, an irresponsible father? I let him drive. Will he be okay? He'll be fine. He should be back any minute now.
Like, you won't be here when he does, dude.
What in the... It's you. Ultra Dickhead Shagster!
Prepare yourself, man.
Please. You were stupid to come here alone. No.
Like, who said I came alone, dude?
Hello, Raggy.
What's going on, Scoob?
No! No, God damn it! Not him too!
Like, let's do it, Scoob, sir.
Let's go.
No! Ah, you bastards will never win!
Like, fuck you, dude.
Welcome to Recording in Progress, where we take a moment, slow things down, or sometimes speed them up, so we can get some recording in, so we can all progress. My name's Larry, and with me is Mr. Jim Jesus. Jim? Jim?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was learning to code. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. And we're going to start off with some interesting stuff, and we're going to get into the Shaggy meme. Jim and I aren't fans of the Shaggy meme. But did you understand that opener?
I think Shaggy memes fucking suck. I'm sorry, what?
Well,
No, I did not
context
understand
of
this
it?
meme. No.
So that little section there's like a parody of a particular sequence in the Dragon Ball Z series. One of the people who does a remastered little anime parody thing that are called Abridged series. Well, that guy did one with the Shaggy meme fighting one of the villains from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, okay.
And yeah,
I don't play much vidges. What I end up doing is I'll play like 3 or 4 games intensely, and I will like do one of those things where I'm like trying to get 100%, even if it's like Breath of the Wild, where it's almost impossible to do such a thing unless you have 0 life, and I do have a life, so it kind of there's a little bit of work-play balance going on, life game balance going on. So yeah, I don't know. So what all are we going to be talking about today? Because I think there's a bunch of things that we should probably prime the pump with.
We got a lot of things to talk about, but what we're going to prime the pump with, Joe, that's crazy, man. Have you ever done DMT Rogan?
Well, I think it's important that we should also get the discussion started for what movie we're going to be talking about, a classic movie review, but we're going to have people vote essentially for which one we're going to be watching next, because we're at a standstill. We don't know which one to choose next because we have 2 great options and great in parentheses. So let's just prime the pump with that first, and then let everybody discuss about what we're going to do it. And then we'll intermix every once in a while if there's discussion going on.
But while we're watching the movie we're going to be talking about today in our little retro bad movie thing, I saw this article that kind of made me think about some things I've felt over the last 2 movies. Joe Rogan says Ace Ventura: Pet Detective is insanely transphobic.
And I had watched this movie probably like, I want to say like earlier last year, and I was like, oh, let's watch some of the Ace Ventura movies, because I could not remember if I liked the second one more. Because I remember when I was younger, I thought I liked the second one more. And I didn't know why, because everybody didn't like the second one nearly as much. So I went back and watched it, and I was like, oh, that didn't age well.
No.
It's still hilarious, but this movie could not be made today. It's a Blazing Saddles situation. Yeah.
So UFC commentator, UFC commentator and radio host Joe Rogan, also a DMT enthusiast, and guy who, in my personal opinion, was part of the worst lineup for the Man Show, even though both he and who's the other guy?
Doug Stanhope. They're both great. They're both great, just not on the Man Show.
They're both great separately, but like together, trying to do the Man Show format, that was a bad decision.
Yeah, I initially didn't like them for the longest time because of the Man Show, how bad it was.
Yeah. As contempt, Ace Ventura's Pet Detective is insanely transphobic in an episode of his show. Rogan discussed his shock at realizing how super transphobic the 1994 movie is during a conversation with his guest. New York Times opinion writer and editor Bari Weiss aired on January 21st. Do you know what I made the mistake of doing yesterday? I watched Ace Ventura: Pet Detective with my 8-year-old boy and my 10-year-old. Joe Rogan said, is there a conversation geared towards controversial films? I didn't realize how transphobic that effing movie is, Rogan added. So, for those of you who don't remember, the villain of the movie, played by Sean Young, was a former star from the Miami Dolphins, and who was responsible for them missing out on winning Super Bowl victory. And the Super Bowl is coming up for those of you out there who are more sports ball oriented. We may next week do something with the Super Bowl commercials if they're kind of interesting. I don't really think they're going to be.
Yeah, they haven't been interesting for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when all the cops see her, to quote the rap jargon, Tootsie Roll, all the cops were throwing up. It's off the charts, Rogan said, playing the scene for those who have either forgotten or never watched the film. Everyone is freaking out. It's so insanely transphobic, Rogan added. You see, I kind of get where that's coming from, and I kind of, from our own little atmosphere today, that's not how you want to play that reaction. But when you're attracted to something, and then you realize that it's a bait and switch, one of the things is you get a little revulsed. Yeah. It's a normal reaction. Like, you go to the bar, you pick up a girl, and you wake up, and she's not quite as attractive as she looked after 5 or 6 beers.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what they have between their legs.
No.
I think we've all, at least a lot of us have had that happen.
Yeah.
I thought you were a whole lot prettier when I saw you at the bar.
Yeah.
At beer goggles.
Now, when we're going along through the arc of the history of that kind of a joke, yes, it was a lot funnier back then because, oh, look, that hot woman's really a dude, was a funnier joke. But now, it's not as comfortable of a joke. It's not as good.
Yeah, the whole transgender thing really wasn't a thing. That was still in the day where transvestites were probably more known about.
Yeah, and I mean,
people,
like, I have to explain all these different gender terms to my mother sometimes, and it's one of those conversations you don't want to have.
Yeah,
it's like, I haven't broke down and explained all 700 genders to my mother because her eyes would go glassy.
Yeah,
and Sonny Bunch, a noted film critic who also he does a lot of right wing stuff on the internet. He also had a Washington Post article said, how having a kid changed the way I watched movies. The setting of the scene remains vivid in my mind. Vodka martinis and cigars on the balcony of Morton, the one overlooking Connecticut Avenue in the district. I'd recently gotten engaged and was chatting with a friend of a friend. He congratulated me on the news, warning me that everything was about to change. Don't worry about that too much, he said, as it would all change again when you had kids. I can't watch movies anymore, he confessed. Oh, I asked, confused. There's always a little kid getting killed, some expletive-deleted writer with no kids using a dead one as a plot point. I hate it. I can't watch things like that anymore. It makes me so angry. So this really goes back to, some of the most ancient aspects of the dramatic arts, pathos. A kid being killed is supposed to make you angry. The woman you thought was really hot and attractive is really a man, supposed to make you feel a certain way. I mean, I don't have kids, and Jim doesn't have any kids that he knows of.
Thank Christ.
So we can't relate to that experience, but I can kind of understand it. I've been responsible for being an adult authority figure for kids, and there are certain aspects of things that when they turn 21, I can talk to them about, but before that point, like, no. Those are not conversations we're allowed to have.
Yeah, I've helped raise my nephews, so I know what that's about. But having them in my, it's great to be like, get out of here, I'm done hanging out with you guys.
Exactly.
You can't do that as a parent. They go away now.
But as the popular internet meme, Joe Rogan is talking about DMT. We may have another celebrity who's taking DMT now. Jose Canseco says that aliens could teach us how to time travel. Jose Canseco was a former Oakland A's designated hitter He claimed on Twitter that aliens want to share the secret of time travel, but they're having trouble getting in touch. Aliens have been trying to teach us how to time travel, but first we have to change our body composition, which we are not willing to do. We have tried it with animals and failed, he tweeted. American League 1988 MVP, who took the idea of becoming Donald Trump's chief of staff, said that the supposed extraterrestrial skill can be taught, but a major issue is halting our quest for interplanetary communication. Our science is totally irrelevant to aliens, he tweeted. So Canseco didn't offer the solution. He offered a few suggestions. Would you agree to be abducted, Jose? Hypothetically, replied one Twitter user. So, according to Jose Canseco, it's our brains. Since our brains are inside our body, like pressures inside our body during time travel would squish our brains. That's why we can't travel through space and time.
Wow.
At speeds faster than light.
Wow, that's crazy. Have you done DMT?
Yeah. I mean, I had this doesn't really fit a lot of what our normal space is, but this was just too weird not to talk about.
And it's relevant.
And Jose was also involved with a lot of the sports scandals involving steroids and stuff. And I'm just saying, if we hear in a couple of years Jose Canseco has a brain tumor, this may in fact have been the first sign.
Yeah.
So there's been a big controversy with some neo-Nazi bikers calling themselves the Odin's Wolves.
Oh, is this video?
No, there's not video.
Okay.
So the
For some
Edmonton...
reason, you didn't give me the link for that one.
I actually gave you the link to the Twitter, but I'll give you the link to the main article to make it easier.
Oh, this is the Nazi... Okay, Nazi fur porn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prankster buys Wolves of Odin domain, turns it into a furry fan site. Now, I'm going to have to say, I give you a gold star for the trolling effort, but this is not going to, bother Nazis any.
No.
Yeah. If they lose their domain, they just go to a different domain.
Yeah, we've learned this already. How many times did the Daily Stormer lost their domain? Like 100?
Yeah, it just keeps coming back like a bad case of a sexually transmitted infection.
Yeah.
It's like the herp.
Yep.
Edmonton, instead of fighting fire with fire, a brand-jacking website is trying to delegitimize the anti-immigrant group Wolves of Odin by fighting it with furries. Rather than serving a landing page for the group's site, it is plastered with risque art connected to furry culture, a community of animal enthusiasts that anthropomorphizes and dresses up at critters, and allegedly has sex when they're doing so. And the new page thing here you can see is, "Welcome to the Wolves Den. Time to woo a mate." Brady Grumplet, the Edmonton man behind the site, said he paid a web-savvy friend to register a domain with the group's name and design it, which, according to the Canadian Internet Registration Authority, was created on Saturday. The initial version was a lot more graphic, Grumplet admitted. It's not the most G-rated site in the world. Frustrated with the messaging and behavior of groups like the Wolves of Odin, and a recent offshoot that calls itself the Clan, which, if you're gonna be a racist biker gang, that's a little too on the nose. You might want to make it a little less obvious who you are. Which is made up of former members. Grumplet said the idea to turn the domain into a furry fan page came from the emblematic animal in the group's name and the fact that nobody else has reserved the internet address. I just wanted to take it away from somebody that might use it for hate, Grumplet added. I'll take whatever power I can away from them and use it for something else. And I think it's a more effective way to make fun of people. The Wolves' response, at least according to the Alberta chapter leader Lloyd Thomas, let sleeping dogs lie. Somebody saw that and thought that they could make a good joke out of it, and good for them, Thomas said, from the Fox Creek Alta, a 3-hour drive northwest of Edmonton. I'm noticing a recurring theme here in this article. Recognizing the move was intended to poke fun at the group, Thomas said neither he nor the other members he spoke to were offended. In fact, they were quick to note how impressed they were with the content. Gotta give credit where credit is due, Thomas added. Whoever drew these pictures, they're a pretty good artist. While he disagrees with the label, the Wolves of Odin is a hate group. Wolves of Odin HQ Facebook page, of which Thomas is administrator, describes itself as an organization concerned with guarding against what it calls a growing immigration crisis in Europe, to which it baselessly attributes an increase in crime. The group sees itself as a line of defense to protect the country's original inhabitants from this perceived threat. As for deploying furry fan art as a gambit, Courtney Plant, a psychology professor with MacEwan University in Edmonton, who has studied the community and identifies with it, said members will likely meet it with mixed reviews. On the one hand, he explained the furry community is fairly progressive, an valuable ally in the effort to belittle the anti-immigrant cause. Of course, they're Nazi first, so I think she's not really focusing on the bigger problem. On the other hand, you're doing so by throwing furries under the bus, by capitalizing on an existing stigmatizing belief about the group, like the misconception that furries are deviants, and thus an undesirable group to be associated with. We'll have more on that in a little bit. Grumblet, however, said that the site isn't intended as a slight against furries, and added that some have sent their own art to feature on the site in support. Since site launch, Grumblet has also reserved a domain name for the clan. After publishing on Reddit, he said other users chipped in and reserved like-named addresses, all of which redirect to the furry fan page. So if you are a Nazi hate group and you're listening to us, and you're not wanting this to happen to you, make sure you reserve your website for your hate group before you announce the name.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. And that goes for everyone. But if you have a
Yes.
YouTube channel, buy the domain. It's like, depending on where you get it,
Yeah.
it's like $12 to $15 a year, depending on which one you get. Get.com, because that's the one people use. No one, unless you're like a legitimate nonprofit organization or you're an internet service provider, and even then, you know, you're still going to want to get a .com. Do it, because otherwise, things happen. There was a YouTuber, I'll mention his name, who I'm not a fan of personally. I think he's a jackass, by the name of Love, Life, and Anarchy. He bought the domain name Love, Life, Anarchy, and I was like, oh, you didn't buy the one that's actually your name. So I bought lovelifeandanarchy.com, and then I redirected it to a video of mine criticizing him. So that's a thing. And it's only $12 for a good year of trolling. It's worth it.
At the tail end of the page, no expense of the domain is for sale for $10,000. Donation to the hate group YEG, a grassroots organization working to rout discrimination in Edmonton. Most recently, Grumblet decided to a crowdfunding campaign at removing hateful graffiti and creating inclusive events in the city. In an email to the Star Metro Hate Free YEG said that it appreciates the gesture, but noting they have no dog in this fight.
By the way, this isn't the first time this has hit the news in recent times either, where someone bought a domain. You might remember a certain political candidate by the name of Jeb Bush, who didn't buy JebBush.com.
That was a mistake for Jeb.
Yeah,
That was a mistake.
and it ended up was getting purchased shortly after by another presidential candidate you may have heard of by the name of Donald J. Trump. So it's very important. If you have a name, you should buy your name unless someone else already bought it.
Yeah. And if somebody else already bought it, you should consider asking that person, hey, can I buy my name back?
Yeah.
For a reasonable rate.
Yeah.
And while we talked about something respectable for furries, we're about to talk about something disrespectful. So, we've covered this story before, and it's made the rounds of the internet a few times. There's a noted furry YouTuber by the name of Kiro the Wolf who has been accused, has not been convicted, of various deviant acts with animals and corpses of animals. And being
that's the lightest way I've heard put so far.
Yes, and also being accused of torturing animals as part of sex acts and some other really gross and disgusting stuff. Well, Kiro has decided he's leaving the fandom for the furries. I'm sure this has nothing to do with the fact that Kiro is under heavy investigation by the police, and he has a lawyer. And his lawyer's probably telling him, get off the internet, stay off the internet until something gets resolved with your case. Don't talk to anybody on the internet. Don't share any messages with people on the internet. If you know a person from the internet, don't text them on the phone. I'm sure that's what's happening. So we're gonna read this heartfelt message from Kiro the Wolf. Press D for disrespects.
D.
To whom it may concern, this is my final statement. I'm leaving the fandom. It's been an honor to help brighten people's day with my videos and spread positivity. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through the years. I will miss you. And he has linked to a bunch of images of a typed out statement. which it's never a good sign to do that on Twitter. Like, if you're going to have a formal statement and you're going to tweet about it, make a link to the statement somewhere else. Because the people who actually care will read it. As most have noticed, I have recently been active on most social media, mostly due to recent events and to allow myself to reflect more clearly on everything. The allegations that were raised against me last September have affected me emotionally, physically, caused by the thing I have always loved and dedicated my life to, furry fandom. Since I joined, I've noticed the community goes from what I saw as a welcoming, bright, wonderful place of positivity to a place of hateful and toxic mindset. So, let's pause here for a moment. You're making a public statement where you have been alleged to have done horrible things. And you're opening with attacking the people in the community that have been hurt by the allegations made against you. This is not a good decision. No. Regardless of what their intentions were, I have personally seen the community grow more hateful over time. Perhaps it may be from all the times when people were degrading those without fursuits, or the wrong fursuit maker, or threatening to leak people's personal information to hurt or damage them, like how they like to have sex with roadkill. No, that's not what he said. No. That is what he's been alleged to have done, just for disagreeing over something trivial or saying outright false allegations towards others for their own agenda, or personal beefs and grievances. As I've talked about before, and what Dishonored Wolf has recently gone through and shown with his video defending himself, Corey Coyote has also recently been a target of an attempted witch hunt. I have also seen fighting and hostility, clashing ideologies between others, such as the constant back and forth between people like Genesis Wolf and Cathorix, where people will rely on trying to make the opposing party look as bad as possible over their personal viewpoint. Even the recent drama between Sonic Fox and Pink Russell. Not to say the other side is right or wrong in these matters, as honestly, I don't care to comment on all that, and that doesn't matter to me anymore. Again, in this statement, where he's trying to address the community, saying goodbye, where he's been accused of being a person of disrepute, he has still not addressed him. He's instead pointed out to how other people are jerks. We were all gathered here for a common interest, a personal enjoyment of a form of self-expression, creativity and art form, making each other feel like they belong, ready to give a fellow fur warm hugs, and helping each other through the darkest of times. But some people get wrapped up in such insignificant, irrelevant matters. Some cases worried about other people's material possession, and or what adults want to do in their own free time, like having sex with corpse animals. Again, that's not what he said. Do in their own free time with another consenting adult, like having sex with corpse animals. Oh wait, he didn't say that either. It's downright none of their business, and not worth fighting over. People trying to dox one another, which is illegal.
No, it's not.
It's debatably illegal.
No,
it's debatably illegal.
No.
There
are certain states, but for the most part, for all intents and purposes, it's not illegal.
You could make a civil tort over doxing, which somebody needs to do. One of these big celebrities who doxes people needs to get hit and hit hard, so all of them will stop.
It really
send a shockwave out.
Now there is some. Okay, so like let's say that I have some internet beef with you, and nobody really knows who you are. And, you know, there's a few people that are like, oh, okay, this is just drama stuff. I really don't genuinely care. Like, oh, what a bunch of morons. And you dox them. Yeah, that's a pretty shitty thing to do. Chances are nothing is going to really come of it. However, if the person does have people who are constantly getting death threats from people, and then you dox them, and you did that with the intention of them coming after them, that's when you get into some legal territory. Now, what's going on with Kira the Wolf? There are people who are probably making death threats against them. So in this particular case, probably not a good idea to dox Kiro unless it's to the police.
Let's make a statement that we shouldn't have to make, but we live in hashtag current year and people are stupid. Mm-hmm. If somebody has been accused of a crime, making death threats against them while they're in the process of proving their guilt or innocence, bad thing.
Yeah.
We have a system of justice, and while the allegations against Kiro are disgusting and horrible, He deserves his chance to defend himself and not be murdered. So don't try to murder him.
Yeah, because then you get the Oswald situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, where everybody's like, "Oh, well, is he really innocent or not? We don't really know.
Yeah.
Let's build a conspiracy theory." And like half of the country thinks that Oswald didn't do anything because everything's in a murky place. And then the conspiracy theorists come out. They just don't. Just don't.
Just don't.
Yeah.
So back to Kiro's heartfelt statement. We're trying to get ready for the next hit piece on the other party getting ready to retaliate, where things can escalate, making a situation much worse in some cases. Doxing is never okay, especially when a lot. Now, this was all one image file. He's not talked about what he's done or the allegations against him.
Of course not. And
he's talked entirely about other people. This is, a thing you do when perhaps you may be guilty and you don't want to address your guilt. Making a situation much worse in some cases. Doxing is never okay, especially when a lot of the time we could just discuss disagreements privately and civilly as adults instead of making everything a massive public event where misconceptions and or misunderstandings can spread due to the public's misinterpretation of a situation, like my having sex with corpse animals.
Yeah, that's a reasonable discussion to have with people.
Excuse me, Mr. Carroll. I see here you had sex with that roadkill over there. Can we have a reasonable public discussion about how that's not okay?
Let's have a reasonable public discussion about the ethics of fucking corpses.
In my own case, so again, we've gone a paragraph into the second image file, and he's finally talking about himself. In my own case, where people falsely accuse me of horrible things I would never do, but the mere pointing of the finger was enough to turn half of the fandom against me. I want to say, loud and clear, once and for all, I am innocent. What an innocent person would do? They would open with that.
Yeah.
That would be what a person who's been wrongly accused would do. They would open with that. But people are not willing to wait on the outcome of my investigation, which would show that these armchair amateurs squint at blurry fake evidence, pronounce me guilty. And of all these witch hunts, all of these accusations that fly around doing massive damage to the fandom and our public image, furthermore, the wrong people are persecuted. It's a huge injustice. And anyone who's on the wrong side is ruined. And then we have the trolls. Hi! Who are only doing this for 15 seconds of fame and attention. Or who just want to kick a man while he's down. Yeah, we do. Yeah. People who have never met me, do not know me, but want to pass judgment on me. And I'm just saying, we're going to get into our discussion of public conduct that is suspicious and how you can make a judgment that may be wrong later based on facts. Now we're going to get into the really stupid thing he did. The really, really stupid thing he did in his statement. Then we have the issue of backstabbers. People like Nas and the other clueless YouTubers. So when you're making a statement...
Go ahead.
when you're making a statement, exiting a community because you have been defamed or dishonored, talking about backstabbers is a bad move.
Yes.
It's a move.
And you brought this, you showed me this, and then you talked about the backstabbers line, and I interrupted you, and I think you were trying to convey the same information, but I was like,
yeah.
Look, okay, so you have this situation, right, where things are being said about you that are completely incorrect, right? Maybe it's by associates that you have engaged with in the past, that you were friendly with at one time, whatever, right? And now they're making false statements about you. The one word that you don't use when you're trying to convey the fact that you're innocent is backstabbing, because backstabbing conveys that you were doing something and someone released that information behind your back in an attempt to hurt you because for whatever reason. For instance, I was stealing stuff at the grocery store and my buddy was keeping an eye out for me and he decided to backstab me by alerting the authorities that I was, or the management, that I was stealing stuff. That's the right use of the word backstabbing.
Yeah.
Because you had your guard down, you were doing stuff, and someone outed you for doing that stuff. That's what backstabbing sort of means to most people. Yeah. I think that's actually what the word means.
Yeah. People who are supposed to be my friends do not know what they are talking about. People who threw me under the bus at the first accusation, instantly convinced by weak evidence.
That
Without ever
that
reaching
one,
out.
the throwing people under the bus. That's a more thing that you would say if you were innocent,
Yes,
not
yes.
backstabbing.
You see, I would not have a problem if he at some point in time accused throwing him under the bus.
Yeah,
But backstabbing that has certain connotations that
Yeah.
are not good. Without ever reaching out to me to get my side of the story, without ever offering any kind of help, what kind of friend is that? Now, sure, you could just brush this off as something that happens in every fandom. No, not every fandom has somebody accused of having sepsis. I'm just gonna put that out there.
This is the first
Not-
time I've never heard of anyone. I've never heard of anyone in any community that I've been involved with. And by the way, I've been involved with the libertarian community, and there's been some really weird stuff that's been happening in that one. None of which involve
Yeah.
fucking animals. None of them. That's the one thing I can say about libertarians, even the ones that I dislike. None of them ain't fuck no animals, as far as I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Until you realize that that's where my personal gripe comes from. Almost every week, I will see or hear about another scandal going on. When there's a new scandal every week, people get burned out on chasing these illusions. Following the angry mobs, the next target is exhausted. And they're on chasing the and on hurting their own cause, no one wins. Whether their motivation is driven by a personal hate of someone, something, or a personal belief, but secretly trying to justify it under the guise of insert personal ideology here. I'm just saying, being opposed to having sex with dead animals, kind of not a personal ideology. Kind of gross. I'm just gonna say that now. Sure, we may have a time in like 30 or 40 years where it's not considered gross to have sex with dead animals. But if that happens, I hope I'm senile and I'm not aware of my surroundings at that time.
Yeah.
It has only made this community appear as more bloodthirsty to me and to outsiders. No. And with what I have seen within my time in the fandom, this comes off as a community that is drifting in the wrong direction. A dark direction. Perhaps it was due to my rose-tinted glasses where I centered myself and content around making others happy and trying to bring enjoyment. What I do that caused me to not notice this in the past. Not, I merely overlooked it. Never heard about it back when I first discovered the fandom.
Yeah,
I'm going to press X to doubt.
Yeah.
Press X to doubt.
I've been following various forms of media and entertainment for a while. People who want to entertain people. Never have I once heard someone say like, "Hey, here's a good idea to entertain people. Here's pictures of me fucking my dog to death." Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
As a result of this worsening trend in my own recent experience, it is something that I just cannot feel comfortable in anymore. It's my decision to leave this fandom that I once called home. Now, with that said, please don't get me wrong, as there are generally wonderful people I have met. You notice he buried everybody, and we're coming into the final stretch, and it's like, no, there are good people, and many more that I did not get to meet. They're good associates, and of course, the best friends that anyone could ask for. The fan base
Three
I
best
acquired
friends that anyone can have, or the three best friends that anyone can have. Sorry, go ahead.
The fan base I acquired during my entire time here, do what I did on YouTube, never a want for money, nor a lust for fame. I'm going to press X it out there again. Those just happen to come to me by mere chance and generosity. I will always be grateful for it, which is why it leaves me in tears as I write this. You know, this is something an innocent person would kind of put in the beginning, not in the end. Just saying. That's a little weird. Being in the crosshairs of many clueless, missed bullies within a controversy that has plagued me for months, genuinely changed my life forever, and it will likely affect me for years to come. Writing this and reflecting, my life is flashing before my eyes. I always have and still do wish for the best for this fandom as I know it. He doesn't do a good job of editing his things there. As I know it is capable of changing lives for many people. Better that said, I feel it is finally time for me to take my leave until further notice when my lawyer tells me I can come back. I want to live my own life, focus on me now. It has been an honor and a privilege to entertain and influence as many people as I have. I will never forget any of you again. Give my deepest gratitude for the overwhelming support, Kiro. P.S. For those whom it may concern, I will be deactivating all social media accounts, including my YouTube account. Although I will no longer be active with it, I will keep my videos up as I know it brings joy to some. So please, if you wish to, feel free to visit, sit back, and have the positive experience that I always wish to give to all.
No.
So Jim, let's put the little cherry on top of this thing. So Jim had an experience recently where he moved a lot of his videos out of a channel, and he's had to move those channels back in. Why'd you move those channels back into the other channel, Jim?
Because of demonetization issues with YouTube.
But part of what gets you monetization is having a certain number of hours of video.
Right.
So if Kiro pulled all of his videos off, he would have to go through the monetization process again.
Yeah.
And let's say somehow we're talking evil twin from another dimension scenario. He's innocent. He's not going to be able to build all of that back up.
No.
That's not going to happen.
No.
So that is why Kiro the Wolf isn't deleting his YouTube account.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's for sure it's bringing in a little bit of revenue for him.
Yeah.
And with all these legal issues that are happening, he's going to need every penny he can get.
Yeah. He's not in a bueno situation.
Yeah. And the moral of the story is, if you want a sex toy, there's plenty of options for you. You don't have to use dead animals as fleshlights. You just don't. No. But
we're going to move from a case of disrespect to a case of respect. Recently, noted prolific character actor Dick Miller passed away. You might know Dick as the father of the girlfriend from Gremlins, but he's been in over 100 films and died at the age of 90.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with this guy, but
Among his major highlights include Police Squad, Fame, The Howling, Night of the Creeps, A Bucket of Blood, Little Shop of Horrors, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, and yes, Gremlins 2: The New Batch.
And no mention of Terminator.
Yeah, but he was in Terminator, and so he's the latest celebrity of note to pass away in this year of our Lord 2019. So let's check the Wikipedia and see who's dead.
Oh.
We're good. What?
I just got assaulted with Shaggy Yowie. Is that what it is? No.
Well, we're gonna go down to Shaggy in a moment.
Okay.
So let's see if there's been anybody else
interested a little bit.
died. It's okay. Go through the Wikipedia list, and he's the most notable person who's died, it looks like. I mean, there's a lot of business people and sports people and stuff that are kind of not in our wheelhouse. Yeah. Not really in our wheelhouse. So we will actually be talking a little bit about sports ball here. And a bunch of British celebrities that are like kind of a little obscure to me. So that's the dead celebrity news portion of our show today. So we're going to talk about this Shaggy meme situation.
I think Shaggy memes suck. Wait, don't publish that.
So yes. So Anime Outsiders was the posting of Shaggy doing this whole fraction of your power level. That's with the girl. So it's not yaoi. It's also not porn. See, let's look at the second one here. Second example of this new terrible meme that's upon us. So this one I kind of like because they expanded the anime memeing to everybody in the thing. So, since you don't know about anime, this thing with Scooby here is really terrible. It's terrible and wrong, and whoever created this should be ashamed of themselves. So there's an anime called Full Metal Alchemist that goes into the whole occult science of alchemy. Well, one of the things that you can't do with alchemy is combine living things. Unless you have a Philosopher's Stone and can cheat. So one of the alchemists decided to combine his daughter, the dog. And that's what they've reskinned Scooby-Doo as. They replaced Daphne with a redheaded girl from a more recent giant robot anime.
This is all safe for work, right?
Yes. This second picture is definitely safe for work.
Okay.
And Velma, they replaced with a generic anime girl, and they made Fred from My Hero Academia. And I'm Just said, you people are terrible. Why are you doing that?
I like this tweet right here. So you've decided to tweet this. Here's why you shouldn't have.
And the last tweet played the video we actually. So here's where this meme comes from. There was an episode of a recent version of, I think it was 2011's version of Scooby-Doo. Because Scooby-Doo is basically the same show every time. But somebody hypnotized Shaggy to be the opposite of Shaggy's normal personality. So he beats up a whole biker bar full of bikers. Because of hypnosis. And so the internet has decided to combine that with Dragon Ball Z to make Shaggy the secret ultimate fighter of the universe. And they're actually trying to get him onto the latest Mortal Kombat game as a DLC character.
Stop this now.
So Jim, can you share your feelings about this meme in a little bit more detail?
Zoinks you, man. Zoinks you right in the ass. We're the one putting our butts on the line, dressing up like barbers and offering monsters a free haircut. This is the worst meme ever. It really is. It's not the first Shaggy meme that I've seen. Don't forget Coolsville sucks. That was a great meme. But this is not a great meme. They're not doing anything fun or interesting with it at all. It's just kind of like, oh, Shaggy's a character. Let's put him in things. But
yeah.
It's like,
and for those of you who don't know, the original inspiration for Shaggy came from Dobie Gillis. Which, among the many things it's famous for, is it was Warren Beatty's first acting job. And it was a character that was a beatnik character that was played by the same guy who played Gilligan. And that was the original idea to build up for with Shaggy.
Yeah. And you know who was voiced by, originally? Casey Kasem.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that.
So,
but
we're
this is a terrible fucking meme. I'm gonna give this one an F.
I'm gonna give it a D-, because there's not enough original material to make something good out of it.
No.
But I'm impressed with the volume of force meme activity that's going on with this meme. But it is clearly normie tier force meme activity. So we have a little something interesting that happened. We talked a little bit in the beginning about the LOL suit with Maddox.
Mm-hmm.
And well, Maddox has gotten Dick Masterson pulled off of Twitter.
Oh.
So.
Oh.
So, Dick Masterson made a comment about somebody. He was arguing about Maddox and blocked you, coward Angelo. You desperately fangirled B-plugging for Maddox, just like the obsessive comment on Tim Heidecker shit after he put you receipt on motherfucker in one of his sketches. To laugh at her, we're all laughing at her. You pathetic ass-sucking Hollywood trash. So, our good friends at Twitter, who know all about us and know what's best for us, they determined that to be bullying. And he also commented in that same thread that this was being orchestrated by a woman who had a restraining order against him, known as Mental Jess. And these same people who are in this thread are making an effort to try to sabotage Dick Masters' Patreon, which is what enabled him to start his own podcasting empire against Maddox. And let's see here.
We're going to the next tweet. Jim's good old buddy, Mr. Andy Bully.
Mr. Andy Bully, who's a great friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jim's buddy was asking what the heck happened. And there's some people who are accusing Ian Miles Chung about that. And we can talk about Ian Miles Chung another time because that story is still exploding. And it's so complicated because Ian and Andy is connected to Andy and Tonkasaw. It's also connected to David Sherratt, which is connected to Kraut T, which is connected to Sargon, which is also connected to Maddox.
It's a giant shit show.
Yeah, I need a pin board.
And yarn.
Yeah, I need a pin board and yarn and a crazy person, Black Sharpie, to try to figure some of this out and try to make something coherent out of all of it. It's kind of a mess. So we have a little vidya we're going to talk about because
I was just gonna play a
They're
video.
on to me, dude.
what are we going to play?
I was gonna play a video of this So Is Sunny in Philadelphia where he has the pin board. So
Yeah,
this
you
is
can
exactly
play that.
how we
Let's
need
play
to
that
describe.
video. This
Yeah.
is what we need.
Otherwise, he's never gonna get it. He's gonna keep
This is how we got to explain the whole Usemob situation. So I think it's important to kind of point out here, and this is a kind of a good lesson for news outlets as well who have not been heeding this advice, is you let news stew for a bit before you jump the gun and talk about it, because otherwise you get shit like the Russian P tapes, like you get the Covington kid story, you get like another story we're going to be talking about in a little bit, which is going to be important because you jump the gun, you release the quote unquote facts, and then it turns out, oh, none of it was real.
None of it was real. The facts were wrong.
Yeah.
And
So
we're going to
letting that stew, but
we're going to let that stew for a little bit.
yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about some stuff that happened to MatPat. MatPat's a pretty big deal YouTuber, and he's going to be saying some things, but MatPat's not the only big guy who got screwed over in this deal, and most of the people who got screwed over were smaller to medium YouTubers. So, let me play that video.
2018 was the hardest year in my life, and I don't mean that in the way a YouTuber stubs their toe and suddenly says, "Oh my gosh, I almost died." I actually mean that 2018 was the year filled with the highest of highs, but also the lowest of lows that I've ever experienced in my, 31, 32 years of existence. High point, reaching 10 million subscribers, something I never thought was possible. Getting a diamond play button when it was first announced was so far removed from what I thought was in the realm of possibility that to find so many people excited to nerd out and theorize with me is just incredible. 7 years into doing this crazy YouTube thing, and the channels are stronger now than they ever have been, which is saying a lot. Oh, and by the way, don't worry, that 10 million subscriber special is coming. You guys should know at this point that I'm just really slow about doing stuff. Low point, our house almost burning down in the California wildfires. And when I say almost burning down, I literally mean across the street from our house is black. You have no idea the mental toll it takes on you to watch news coverage and see the red fire line approaching where you live. It's scary. It's unsettling. It is so traumatic to know that you might wake up and what you had worked so hard to build and buy is just gone. That safety net is ripped out from under you. High points, huge high point, highest high point of the year is the birth of our son Oliver, who is literally the coolest potato I have ever met.
Stomach table. You have to suck in. There you go. Yeah.
But that comes with the low point of everything that comes wrapped around giving birth to a new child. Watching your partner and your wife have to deal with tremendous morning sickness when you are powerless to do anything to relieve that pain outside of, just get more watermelon because it's the only thing that she can eat. And then after he arrives, watching as she's unable to walk for multiple weeks and suffering through all that pain of recovery. Meanwhile, you're dealing with a baby who just cries all the time and you're trying to give him the love that he needs, but it's really hard to actually know what he wants at any given point in time. Mind you, we're still trying to run a business, make sure that you have videos in your inbox so that way the YouTube algorithm gets fed. Our family lives across the country, so we're not getting any help from there, and we are clueless. We have no clue what we're doing, and we're getting like 2 hours of sleep for the better part of 3 months every single day. It is a lot. High point. Raising $200,000 to support mental health research in what I can say is one of the proudest, happiest days that I've ever had in the 7 years of doing YouTube. But obviously that comes off the heels of what was the lowest of low points last year, losing my partner, my friend, Ronnie Edwards, to suicide. But I've already talked about that in one of these other confessional videos. But there was one other absolute lowest low point of 2018 that I haven't been able to talk about on the channel yet because of legal reasons. You know that when someone says because of legal reasons, it's gonna be some serious business. And worse yet, it wasn't just a low point for me, but it was also a low point for 50 other creators on this platform that you know, and you love, and you watch. Collectively, us 50 had $1.7 million stolen from us. $1.7 million stolen from 50 people. And if that wasn't bad enough, in my case, it was taken by someone who I thought I knew. someone who I thought I could trust. Someone who only weeks after giving birth to Oliver hopped on the phone with Stephanie and I and lied directly to our faces, knowing full well that he intended to take our money, but oh no, he's gonna offer us some newborn advice. And if we have any hope of getting these earnings back and making sure that this never happens to another creator ever again, then I need your help. I need you to listen to this story. Today I'm telling the story of Defy Media. Now, some of you may have heard a little bit of this. Some of you, this might be completely new to. So to make sure that we're all on the same page, let me rewind a bit. Defy Media was what's known as an MCN, or a multi-channel network. And if you watch a decent amount of YouTube, you might have heard that phrase tossed around a little bit.
Multi-channel network.
MCNs.
Multi-channel network.
MCN.
Multi-channel network.
You might even be able to name a couple. Fullscreen, Maker, Machinima, PewDiePie's Revel mode was one back when that was a thing. And basically these are all businesses that were built with the intention of helping YouTubers. Back in the olden days of YouTube, you actually had to join an MCN in order to get your videos monetized and use things like custom thumbnails. Nowadays, it's changed a lot, where copyright protection is the primary goal of MCNs, as well as getting you better brand deals or things like, if you're a big creator, like a TV deal, potentially. Funny enough, my first ever job was actually working at an MCN. Back when game theory was just this.
Now, from what I understand from some people who talked about this commentary, the copyright thing's no longer as big of a part of the thing.
Yeah.
But
it helps a lot. It still helps.
It helps a lot.
Yeah.
It still helps a lot.
This cool talking point on my resume, I actually worked at a small MCN called Big Frame. I was hire number 7. We worked out of one room in central Los Angeles, and there weren't enough desks for me, so I sat on the floor and worked on my laptop. My laptop, my personal laptop, not like a company-owned laptop. As the person who understood numbers, but also understood what it meant to be a creator, I became the optimization guy. Basically, it was my job to consult the YouTube channels in the network on what their channel health was and what they could be doing better. And so here you have Matt Pat with a solid 30,000 subscribers to his name, but pretty good understanding of YouTube, having to consult channels with over 1 million subscribers on what they're doing wrong. And mind you, 1 million subscribers back then was a huge deal. Like, it's a big deal now, but it was a huge deal back then. These were some of the top channels on the platform. Channels that you probably still may know today. Daystorm, Mystery Guitar Man, Corridor Digital, Miranda Sings. In fact, I designed one of the channel banners for Miranda Sings. I think I can probably pull it up here if I can find it through.
Oh, wow, that's bad.
And don't worry, it was intentionally made to look cringy.
Okay.
I had this whole conversation with her about why it made sense for her brand. And as an employee of the MCN, if one of the YouTubers needed an extra actor in their video, we were just enlisted. It was a requirement of our job. Like this.
I won a lottery!
That's great.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. My first ever major YouTube collaboration. That kid, he's going places, ready to shoot up the charts. Anyway, I was one of the first to really start talking about them. I was definitely the first person to get a lot of these YouTube creators to actually look at their data. Some of them took my recommendations. Most of them didn't, honestly. Most were just like, I'm ignoring this kid. And all the while I was doing game theory on nights and weekends in the background. I would actually stay late in the office working nights on writing or editing a video. And some of the big YouTubers would walk past and be like, oh, what are you working on? I'm like, I'm working on my channel. And they'd be like, oh, cute little kid. Go get him, buckaroo. It was kind of demeaning. And it inspired me to work harder. Now, this is where Defy comes in. After about a year of working at Big Frame, I move on to Defy, where I become their head of audience development, where they work with channels, just like Big Frame did, but they also own a lot of the biggest channels on the platform, like Smosh and Screen Junkies. You can actually see some more cameos there. This is me in the Screen Junkies 1-year anniversary. Oh, cute baby Matt Pats. I was actually there, making the decisions on what weapons got made on their Omni channel, where a real-life blacksmith was crafting fantasy weapons in real life. I'm not gonna lie, it was awesome. But my proudest moment was probably my team and I getting Morgan Freeman to read the lyrics to What Does the Fox Say back when that song was relevant.
A ring-a-ding-ding. A ring-a-ding-ding.
Look at him. He is so confused and so angry and so over it. Morgan Freeman, you're not watching this, but if you ever do, I am sorry for that. Let me just say there was a lot of really hard work there too that was going on, but I just wanted to throw out these examples because I thought you would get a kick out of them. Anyway, I left Defy after about a year working there to do YouTube full-time because the channel by that point had gotten to be large enough. Most people hop into doing YouTube full-time like with a couple thousand subscribers. At this point, Game Theory had 3 million, so it was long overdue at that point. But the more time that I spent working at these companies, and Defy specifically, the more I started to see the questionable way they ran their business. Let me explain how broken this system is. Now, when you're signed into an MCN, YouTube sends your ad revenue check to the MCN, who then takes their cut as payment of whatever services they rendered to you, and then repackages that check and sends whatever's remaining over to you. Now, that doesn't seem like it should be that big of a deal, right? But if you stop and think about it, there's actually two problems with that. First, they rarely, if ever, do anything to really merit the money that they're taking from you. It's just a sad fact of the matter. Now, that's not to say that good people don't work at these companies. Jeff Olson at Defy, great representative for his creators. John Carl is without question one of the best representatives of his creators ever. He works so hard for them. I am honored to know you and work with you, buddy. But when a lot of these companies are representing hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of channels, there is no way that you can actually give services to all of them. Especially not services that merit you taking that much money from them. Just a fact. But secondly, and far more importantly, is the fact that that is the creator's money, first and foremost. But YouTube is sending it to a service that the creator uses. If that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, think of it this way. It's like if your paycheck, before it got sent to your house, was sent to like the water company, and then like the electric company, and then McDonald's, and whatever other services that you planned on using for the duration of that month, and then it eventually reaching your own pocket. Everyone gets their cut, and then you finally get access to the money that you rightfully own. It's still your money that you earned at your job at the end of the day, but it went through everyone else's hands.
So, Jim, isn't this a great defense of libertarianism and the perspective on taxes right here?
Yeah.
So, we're not going into some of the deep dive on this, but this is kind of an important story. So, Defy Media got in a whole bunch of investors, got in a whole bunch of loans, and they got underwater. And so the bank seized the company, and they decided to treat the assets of YouTubers as assets of the company. And pop that in there. So that's a problem, and when you're a guy like MatPat, you actually have employees who work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I would love to have a tenth of his success. Wouldn't you love to have 1 million subscribers, Jim?
Probably not. It's maybe this is one of the things like, ooh, all that attention, but then all that attention comes with some very bad things. Probably not now.
Like, what? Are you end up being like Mike and Jay and, like, not, you know, willing to talk to people?
Yeah, if I ended up becoming that big, I'd probably end up becoming like Matt and Jay and just having all of my tweets sent out through Hootsuite so I don't see the responses.
Well, Jay actually does respond, but yeah, so we just wanted to talk about this story because it is kind of a big deal because there are a lot of people who are trying to, you know, get employment through YouTube and, like, get a day job out of that.
Yeah, here's a tip. Don't. Don't.
Yeah. It's probably not going to go well.
Yeah.
Not going to go well.
It's a fun thing to do, and if it turns out to be a job, great. But just don't quit your day job. Yeah.
Like but I would like to get to the point where, you know, Jim and I could get paid to just go to Clearwater, sitting outside a certain infamous public building there and heckling them live on the internet for other people's enjoyment. That
was something I was wanting to do. I still want to do that. I still definitely do want to do that. Yeah. So I took the cheaper route and I did it in front of St. Louis, Kansas City, and then later
the big Hollywood headquarters.
Yeah.
And of course, those of you in the chat, you probably know the building we're talking about.
Yeah.
You may be familiar with it a little bit. So we're gonna talk about Harry Potter and how Harry Potter has decided to use the opportunity of the Super Bowl to say Orange Man bad. Now, be wary of this Fox News site, Jim, because they forgot the lesson we learned in the 90s that nobody wants video that plays automatically on their websites.
Yeah. You block Oregon about it, though.
Yeah, nobody told Fox News this, apparently. avid football fan, Daniel Radcliffe is sick of Tom Brady and the New England Patriots' constant victories, but even more sick of Tom Brady's support of President Donald Trump. So I'm going to press X to doubt on that, on him being a football fan. Because, you know, if you hate Tom Brady, you don't hate him because he's President Trump's boy. You hate him because of the deflated football.
Yeah.
You hate him because of the camera. You hate him because he cheated on a supermodel girlfriend with another supermodel. You know, you hate him for all those things. On Saturday, Radcliffe, 29, told Variety he's supporting the Los Angeles Rams in this year's Super Bowl, explaining the whole world is rooting against the Patriots. Oh. Sorry. The Harry Potter star admitted he doesn't think Brady 41 should retire, but that he should stop winning things. That's not what a sports fan. That's not what a sports fan is. Yeah. I'm sorry, Daniel. You're wrong. You're wrong about that. I mean, I hate Tom Brady too. I think he shouldn't be winning all the games, but you know what? If Tom Brady wins because he's still a top tier athlete, which I don't believe he's going to be in a year or two, because he's at the top of the quarterback game. He's 41, but you get to 42, you get to 43, you get body starts to go through certain physiological changes. He's not going to be able to keep playing. And the only guy who's a quarterback who's played longer, he ended up switching out to kicker at some point in time, prolong his NFL career to be a Guinness Book of World Records footnote. Take the MAGA hat out of your locker. I feel like that was the moment where, as a country, we're like, come on, dude, you're awesome. Don't put that in there. Radcliffe chuckled. And we see a picture of him with this Variety thing there, and it's like,
oh, that's not a picture. That's a video, my dude.
Well, that is a video, but I mean, look at the still there. Does that look like two boys who are going to be sitting around drinking some beers, some chips, and some cheese, and some other snackables?
No.
And
No.
It doesn't.
No.
So I'm rooting for the Rams. I don't know if they're going to win, but I want them to. So here's my personal things. The Rams ran out of St. Louis because their owner was a jerk. And Los Angeles doesn't deserve good things. I mean, you lived in LA. Does LA deserve good things, Jim?
No. But wait, hold on. I am rooting for them, even though I don't care about Hand Egg. I'm more of a ice fight kind of guy. over Hand Egg. Yeah. Which, by the way, I have not been following this season at all because of cable reasons. But anyway, the reason why I'm rooting for them is because the Rams suck. And I'm tired of the Patriots going to the Super Bowl every year and winning. I'm just tired of it.
I was really hoping the Eagles would have made it so that they could own the Patriots a second.
Yeah. Now, it would have been great. It would have been much better if my team, when I did care about Hand Egg, were in the Super Bowl, which is now an LA team, which originally wasn't. A little team but you may know of called the San Diego Superchargers. San Diego Superchargers. Charge. Which, by the way, has the worst theme song march ever in all sports history.
That song hurts me in my soul.
Yeah, it's even, I'm considering playing it to show you how bad it is. All of the other sports teams have like this kind of march that kind of sounds like the Fox, on NFL theme, like where everything's like, yeah, it's usually orchestrated, but they decided to go with the disco. I'm tempted. Should I play it?
I mean, yeah, if you want to, we could use that as a little bit of bumper before we get into some Star Wars.
Let's see, Superchargers. Oh, come on. There we go. This is a thing that actually exists in the real world. Let's just hope we don't get copy striked.
Just play it very short.
It's only 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Oh. I mean, I like the San Diego team kind of sort of. I think it would have been great if Philip Rivers made it, because he's probably not playing again.
Yeah.
Unless they trade him to another team. And if that's the case, I hope that team wins.
Yeah, I'm done playing it. there's a little bit of delay.
Yeah. That is not a bueno bit of music.
No.
So
what were they
gonna
thinking? Okay.
we're going to take a moment to look at some of the things that could have been with Star Wars. So we have a little Twitter link that goes to an that one of the design directors drew an early concept art piece for The Force Awakens. This was a concept of how we might meet Han in Star Wars.
Chat delay. The chat delay about that song is great.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this disco? Yeah. The team was formed in the 70s, right in the fit of Disco Inferno.
Oh. So this is a concept of how we might meet Han in Star Wars The Force Awakens, out drinking everyone in the cantina. How much better would that have been than Han randomly showing up to some place because the Falcon is there? Han sitting at a bar with drunk aliens all around him.
That would have been beautiful. And then it would probably give us some little understanding about why. I mean, we already kind of knew, but a little bit more understanding of why that relationship between Leia and Han didn't work out.
Han kind of went sour. Yeah, that would have been good. That would have been something that would be good. And yep. So there is a little special treat for all of you. So somebody trolled Rian Johnson and other Star Wars personalities, and we're going to play his confession video.
Why me? I'm stupid. I'm a cripple. Why me?
Because you're a cripple. Because you're stupid. Because you're weaker than them. If what you say is true, then it won't matter. Come on, tell me the truth.
Unlike The Last Jedi, Luke is 100% consistent. I saw him die. Luke is dead. Oh, Christ. The Last Jedi is a good movie. I was wrong.
I have to say, one of the great things about The Usual Suspects is it has so many things that are great for making memes with.
I really need to go back and watch this again. It's been a long time.
Are you saying maybe instead of watching a terrible movie, we should do a retrospective on a good movie?
Absolutely not.
Nothing. Man, you're a slob.
I mean, we could talk about how Kevin Spacey's a horrible perv.
It won't make sense when you look at it right. You gotta, like, stand back from it, you know? You wanna see a real horror show? See my garage.
And here it all comes.
Convince me.
He
He strongly disliked The Last Jedi. He trolled Lucasfilm. That was the perfectly normal response.
And he has turned his opinion around, and now he likes The Last Jedi.
To know your enemy, you must become your enemy.
So I had to make up a backstory for myself.
His real name is David. My son is 6 years old. My wife rejected my sleep on a sofa. I begged her for this.
You just made yourself look like the biggest pussy on the planet. Beta male.
The soy boy cock.
And it's just out of the blue, just out of nowhere, boom.
He's sorry he harassed some people at Lucasfilm so much while still insulting on the same page. This made me cry reading. This was impossibly brave.
What I read was basically the same thing that we hear from all of the Last Jedi defenders.
I'm sorry. You are an incredible filmmaker.
Maybe he's Jake Skywalker. He's not my Luke Skywalker.
Gotcha, bitch!
Every scumbag SJW will know the name of Eddie Artie.
The cripple, did you see him? The cripple, which way did he go?
Oh, he went out that way.
I know you know something. I know you're not telling
If you really want forgiveness, here's what you need to do. Go to the black community, go to the gay community, go to the... And I'm like, are you kidding?
Debase yourself on the altar of social justice, and you will be forgiven.
There was somebody who was capable.
Any RD. Now he's on here this morning playing the victim. Completely destroyed me. Begged her. His sick brand of toxicity. Titled trash. You've made him the victim. You've marginalized him.
You know the whole fucking time!
But like, he did actually quote Gross Tico.
I've been getting a real kick out of seeing all the people like getting pissy. What the fuck are you doing? Why are you forgiving him? He's been abusive and blah, blah, blah,
You're
blah,
literally a Nazi. I'm shaking.
Big league troll. The biggest. Everybody knew who he was.
After that, my guess is you'll never hear from him again.
So a guy did a long game troll. You don't see long game trolls that often. He was hard in the paint anti The Last Jedi. He was compiling data of what the defenders of The Last Jedi did, and then he made an apologia talking about what those people did in response and flipping around back on that. So I wanted to share that with everybody because Jim and I, we both met and bonded over our love of internet trolling.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't see that many great examples of trolling anymore.
Yeah. We have a very interesting way of meeting, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is only really interesting in libertarian spheres, so we're going to just skip past that.
Yeah.
Because this is not that show.
So we got some more news about the Star Wars going on, that there's going to be major changes allegedly going on in Lucas. Now, again, the source I'm going to be playing the video from also alleges that these are just hypotheses based on things that are being presented in public by Lucasfilm. We don't know for certain yet what's going on.
Ooh, Midnight's Edge.
Yep.
And if you're watching,
so
hi.
it broke in the last couple days that Kiri Hart.
They actually have their
those
own
of you who are
stream, I think,
unfamiliar
tonight.
With that name, she is part of this Lucasfilm story group that Kathleen Kennedy has put together to help guide the future direction of Star Wars and Star Wars related projects. She was listed as having the job title Senior Vice President of Development at Lucasfilm. Her name has been removed, as well as her image has been removed from the page listing a Senior Vice President of Development. Now, this could be nothing. It could be that she has resigned. We don't know yet. Now, I took the time to look up her IMDb bio, and it lists her projects, everything she's had a hand in, as miscellaneous crew, producer, writer, etc., etc. She has quite literally had a hand in just about every bad decision that has been made by Lucasfilm regarding Star Wars. She lists prominently as one of her credits, co-producer on The Last Jedi. Now, I took the time to look at her previous screen credits, and they are not exactly stellar. Before becoming involved with Lucasfilm, she wrote one episode of 1-800-MISSING, one episode of Crossing Jordan, and she received special thanks on an episode of Phineas and Ferb. She also worked as a story editor on Crossing Jordan and on 1-800-MISSING. Whatever a story editor does, I have no freaking clue. I'll freely admit that. She's also listed as creator on Star Wars Resistance, which is getting lambasted, and she is listed as miscellaneous crew on Star Wars Battlefront 2. The old saying goes, the fish rots from the head, and obviously things aren't going to get measurably better until Kathleen Kennedy is gone. But at the same time, Kiri Hart, honestly, looking at her credits, had no business being in this Lucasfilm story group. Why was she there? To be groomed as a protege for Kathleen Kennedy? Like the Sith always said, always two, a master and an apprentice. Well, yes, but which one was destroyed, the master or the apprentice? Now, I looked up the credits on IMDb.
Yes,
for
that
the
was
people
exactly
in
why
the
she was
Lucasfilm
there.
Story group, Kathleen Kennedy's little club there. And with a few exceptions, these are people that have no experience doing anything until they signed on to this. What is going on? And the decisions that they have made, the experience that they have had, is bad. These are people that are grossly unqualified. I'm not saying that I could do a better job, but at the very least, I have some experience writing and I know what's going on. I at least know the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek. I doubt that these people do. What is going on? If this is the decision of Kathleen Kennedy to put these grossly unqualified people from top to bottom, then it just exacerbates the need for her to go. Because KK has her little agenda. It's unreal. It really is. It's unfrickin' real that this has been allowed to happen. Bob Iger, where's Bob Iger in all this? That's what I want to know. Where the hell is Bob Iger? Where's Alan Horn? Where is somebody to say, you know what? You got people who don't know their ass from their elbow in here, okay? How much rope do you want us to give you? That's the thing. You give people enough rope, eventually they're gonna hang themselves with it. That's an old.
So let's kind of put some context around what's going on here. Disney is going through, though the Brazilians are delaying the process, the final merger with Fox. One of the things that happens when big companies do a merger is they start downsizing people who have duplicated jobs. And Lucasfilm and Marvel Comics, which we're going to get into here in a little bit, were two divisions that had a loss of revenue. So in addition to eliminating duplicate personnel, if your division's lost some money, you need to cut some headcount. So I think what may be happening here is this may be a consolidation move, or this may be a move to cut some headcount because of a loss of money. But there is a possibility that they're starting to clean out the rot in the creative direction of Star Wars. And that may be a process that takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then they're going to transition new people in. They're going to use the Disney streaming service to bootstrapping some new people in to help build a positive direction for Star Wars. So what do you think, Jim? Do you think this is a possible new positive direction for Star Wars?
Let's hope so, because everything that's been coming out with Star Wars lately has just been less than stellar, which is interesting because Star Wars... No, I take that back. Star Wars has always been kind of garbage. Except for the first 3 movies. Have had mixed feelings about all of the stuff. The prequels have not been pretty good, not been good at all. The TV shows seem to be okay. The video games seem to be okay, except for recent. There's more recent examples, except for those. Yeah, it's just been kind of nah, except for the first 3 movies.
And we also have another person who's part of this story group, Pablo Hidalgo, who basically was the master and commander of Wikipedia. So Pablo Hidalgo has been involved in hacking Mecha Random and Doomcock, who are 2 prominent... I called it to a friend, I called these people like counterculture film critics of what's going on with Star Wars. He was involved in a bunch of counter-fan backlash against these people over what was going on with the Star Trek Discovery series and how it's being poorly received. So, is this an action of somebody you think is secure in their job, or somebody who thinks, I'm going to be fired anyway soon, so screw it?
No. I don't know.
I mean, that's what I'm wondering about. What's going on? I think that could be the next thing that we could be seeing. And actually, because I mentioned that thing here, actually I didn't bring that video. That's fine. So, while we've had some hope for Star Wars, and there's also hope for Sony Pictures. Sony Pictures may stop doing things that are stupid. Sony Picture made some bad decisions, fired Amy Pascal, and they've been kind of ambling around. So Sony has an uphill climb to build bankable film franchises. They're making a new Ghostbusters movie. There's going to be a new Men in Black coming in. And Tom Rothman, who, when he worked for Fox, known as the guy who kept us from getting a Deadpool movie, has been slowly getting Sony back into shape. Tom Rothman's film division has turned bits and pieces of IP into hits, gross studio revenue to $1.5 billion, despite a few flops. Late last year, Sony's leadership team of Chairman Tom Rothman and Columbia Pictures President Sanford Panich was under the blade of He-Man's Power Sword after he sold the big brand IP of Barbie to Warner Brothers. Sony was facing the loss of the second Mattel property, Masters of the Universe. Despite spending what insiders said was about $50 million since 2017 to develop a much-needed franchise, the studio has never pulled the trigger, mainly due to previous regime's trigger-shy approach to material. Mattel was ready to take the rights elsewhere before intense talks ended, when Sony keeping He-Man at the studio. In fact, to keep momentum and happy new vibes, a renewed partnership giving Sony going, hiring new writers to work on the script. The battle served to underscore Sony's reemerged commitment to building franchises facing a dearth of IP to call its own. The studio has managed to manufacture its own franchise and grow its theatrical division revenue 50% in 2018 to $1.5 billion. But Sony Corporation CEO Kenshiro Yoshida has described the tech conglomerate as a creative entertainment company during his January 7th CES keynote in Las Vegas. May be expecting. So, this little movie, you might have heard of it, called Venom. In this little movie, you might have heard of it, called Into the Spider-Verse, are key planks in this platform.
Yep. One was really good, and one was...
But people in China liked it.
Yeah.
It's your fault, Chinaman.
Well, here's the thing. The reason why a lot of times China is okay with terrible American movies is because they're dubbed. Or not dubbed. They're in subtitles. And it's a different movie-going experience when you watch a movie in subtitles versus watching it in your native tongue or dubbed.
Yeah. I have a similar experience with anime. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Big branded franchises are, for better or worse, the drive of modern theatrical business, and Sony, up until a few years ago, was mostly sitting on the sidelines instead of focusing on star vehicles, prestige plays, pricey comedies. Putting aside Spider-Man and the James Bond movies, producers and rival executives noted that the studio did not have a deep library of material it could call its own and could develop. Actually, Sony has an entire comic book universe of its own that they have Vin Diesel attached to, and at one point in time they had Mark Wahlberg attached to, but they kind of haven't figured out how to do things. Thanks to a Fury of D making, there's a lot of activity on the Culver City lot. Sony team was able to make deals to reunite the cast for Zombieland 2, a third Bad Boys movie, Bad Boys for Life, a video game adaptation project, Uncharted, already with a track record of filmmakers, lost director Sean Levy late last year, but in early January, the studio put 10 Cloverfield Lane's Dan Trachtenberg in the seat, keeping the Tom Holland star on track for a summer start. I think that's probably going to go really big. They also have Jumanji 2, which did really well.
Which surprisingly...
I mean, it's The Rock, okay?
Yeah, look, like there was lots of people that I was talking to my dad today. We were talking about like what good movies we saw, and I was like, "Did you see Jumanji?" And he was like, "Yeah, we were going to go see it, expecting it to be terrible. We were just bringing the kids because they thought, whatever, kids movie, whatever." And they were like, "Holy crap! I didn't realize how good it could have been, and it was great." Yeah. And I was the same way. I was like, I expected that to be a shit show, and I was watching it expecting to watch a bad movie, and I was pleasantly surprised. So
Sony's
I do enjoy loving terrible movies. We'll get into that a bit later.
so Sony has made some good decisions. You think that's going to keep holding?
No. Sony does that because Sony surprises you with a good movie every once in a while, a really, really good movie, and then just when you're in that nice little comfort zone, hey, here's Ghostbusters 2016.
Oh no!
Oh! You're happy? You think things are good with us? Here's Pixels.
Oh no.
Here's Jack and Jill.
So,
Here's
oh no. So we're gonna talk about some rumors that all the Star Treks are being canceled.
Good.
Instead of revisiting the Prime timeline, or even dropping on the future Kelvin timeline, Picard, the current plan is to merge the timelines into a new one. One where Vulcan disappeared like it did in the Kelvin timeline, where Romulus disappeared like it did in the Prime timeline, but where none of the Prime timeline series played out exactly like we know them. The purpose of doing so is to wipe out the Prime timeline once and for all.
I'm gonna make it all up. I'm gonna make shit up so that you hate it too. And if you don't agree, then you're not a fan to me. Star Trek Discovery and Picard series crossover leak. Star Trek Prime timeline being rewritten. What? I mean, I'm not saying these things are true. I'm just asking the questions. Listen, I'm a reporter. Check out my hat. I'm a reporter, okay? I'm just asking the questions.
The Star Trek we all used to know and love may be getting erased for good. Came across this information just a little bit ago. We'll just say it comes from a source of a source of a source. This may be a rumor, or it might be a leak from inside the Star Trek production.
Whoa, okay, that sounds pretty serious, so let's hope you got some of that spicy sauce on all of that information you just spread across. Let's check out that description. Is it all just a rumor? Did I make it up? Because I have not one source in this whole daggone description. Oh, wait, is there a pinned comment with a link? No? Nothing? So either you made all that up, or somebody made it up, told it to you, and you thought it was a good idea to repeat it. Either way, not so good.
Basically, it looks like we might get some legal action against it, and it might kill the show finally for once and for all. Probably not, but hey, we can hope. So this comes off of
Note, I am playing a defender of Star Trek Discovery's perspective right now before I talk about the story. Just so you can see how the other side sounds. Because I don't want to go into the well too many times playing only one side of the story.
Twitter last night, and this news broke during the Doomcock live stream that I was a part of and I was on, so go check that out. I'll link that in the description below. But this comes from a game developer who made a game called Tardigrades for Steam Greenlight. Now, Steam is...
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and give you a full stop right there. All engines stop, because the things that you're saying and what's actually happening are two different things. We're not talking about the Discovery finally did. No. Nor would this lawsuit actually kill the show. It has nothing to do with killing the show. It has nothing to do with that. It's about this idea getting stolen, possibly by CBS. And they may owe him some money. But regardless, it wouldn't be killing the show. They're going to do that by themselves.
Unless, of course, the show's running short on money.
Especially since so many people hate the show. Yeah.
Although not widely reported, we have been told by insiders with knowledge of the situation that other key cast members dropped out as well.
That's a really long, fancy way of saying, I'm making stuff up. No, I'm not saying that you're just making that up. I'm saying someone else...
Except, of course, they weren't making stuff up, because that came out later.
This guy seriously has a hate boner for Midnight's Edge. I'm just going to say.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Because it's like the second one in a row.
So what happens is so let's say you're going to star in a movie, and you're not a big Hollywood star, and they sign you for a multi-picture deal. Your agent negotiates that, as this goes up, and as my star power goes up, you're going to pay me more money. Well, the fourth movie came around, and Paramount said, we want to pay you less money. And they're all like, no. Paramount was like, no, we want to pay you less money.
It's made it up, and now you're repeating what that other person just made up. Now, is it possible that he wants to get some more money? Yeah, I mean, it's not the craziest idea, but, is that another reason that he, just dropped out of the show because, the movie because he couldn't get extra bucks? I don't think so. But, again, you have no proof of this. There's no proof listed anywhere on anything.
Even though there have been multiple news stories where the actors said to the press that they weren't getting enough money.
On any of these videos. It's a nightmare. Star Trek Discovery Michelle Yeoh spinoff canceled?
Don't think so. I don't think that they're going to bring back Discovery for season 3. If their numbers are so bad that they're kind of testing.
So, here is where we get to the heart of the problem. Spinoff might not air until Discovery has ended. So, how the streaming services all work. There are spring, summer, fall, winter shows. So they're wanting to have a continuous cycle of Star Trek shows. But they're saying that these other shows won't air until Discovery's off the air.
And CBS is not airing the show on their...
Not on the live network, no.
That's a huge mistake.
Yeah. And they recently actually aired the first episode of the current season on YouTube for free.
Oof.
The waters on canceling or pushing back these sort of series.
Okay, so that seems pretty serious. This is a serious headline. What you're implying is pretty serious. Let's check out the link.
Note, not her headline. It's an article from another website. And notice how this guy's gonna be going down the road here.
Oh, yeah. She puts the link down. That's what I'm talking about. Giving me that sauce. All right, here we go. We're going to go check out the link here. Load this up. Star Trek's Georgiou spinoff with Michelle Yeoh might not air until Discovery has ended, but she will be back for Discovery Season 3. Okay, so is the actual interview with you guys? No.
Also, y'all remember how Ghostbusters 2016 was totally, absolutely going to get a sequel? That it was greenlit?
Yep.
Networks and movie studios don't lie. But when you see these kind of defenses, you start to get suspicious.
With McNamara told The Wrap, so let's go check out The Wrap's original source for this so we can get right into the meat. And guess what? I've already read this whole thing already, so you guys didn't have to, so we're just going to zero in on the part that's super important. And all it really is saying is that some of these...
And that I'm pressing X to doubt on that as well.
...shows can be considered as replacements as opposed to additions. These Trek shows take a lot of incubation, and because they're very prep heavy, visual effects heavy, we're seeing it more as we're going a good jump. Wait, what? We're seeing it more as we're getting a good jump on making sure that there is a good, fulsome stream of Trek material. Not only do I not even understand what this person's even saying,
Also, we're going to get into it a little bit more. A lot of online journalists have been getting fired and are complaining on the internet. It's because of things like that. Because of things like that, you're getting fired. So there are lots of rumors going around. CBS is putting the show on for free on YouTube. They're saying, no, we have all these shows that are totally going to happen. We totally swear. And they're all going to come out after this other show you should totally watch. So, and Bad Robot Entertainment is out of the Star Trek movie business. Do you think CBS is going to keep Bad Robot in the Star Trek TV business?
No.
You're pressing X to doubt on this guy's defense of...
Yeah. If J.J. Abrams is out on a show that's supposed to be like J.J. Abrams, is it being produced by Bad Robot?
So here's the thing. Because Viacom and CBS separated into two companies, Paramount and CBS, Paramount has the rights to create new Star Trek. JJ got the rights to that, and it had to agree to be different than the Prime timeline in certain ways for merchandising purposes. So when CBS initially created Star Trek Discovery, they hired Bad Robot to produce it rather than to go apply to Paramount for a new Star Trek license. But nobody wanted a Bad Robot TV show. They wanted a Prime Timeline TV show. So they said, oh yeah, this is totally the Prime Timeline. We super duper swear. And that's been a major part of their problem. That's been why they've been going down a bad road. And J.J. Abrams right now is looking to get married to a big-time studio and have them be the exclusive home of J.J. Abrams and give him his own theme park land. I'm just saying J.J. Abrams, who's involved with Lucasfilm, which is owned by Star Wars owner Disney, which has theme parks. He also wants to get involved with music, which Disney has a division that does music as well. Just saying, wouldn't be surprised if Episode 9 does better than expected. J.J. Abrams signs a big-time deal with Disney. Now we get exclusive Bad Robot content for Disney. But we're going to take a hop over the Pacific.
I'm making some relevant
okay.
amendments to the chat room. I seem to have not... I can't be able to press this button hard enough. But I was going to say... J.J. Abrams, like, I have a lot of respect for him. There's lots of things that I don't like him creatively. I like his kind of philosophy on things. But if he's backing out of this is not good.
And also, CBS and Paramount are going to merge. So if they merge, there's going to be no need for a bastard child of an old business deal Star Trek.
Yeah. But the idea of having a Star Trek-themed amusement park, probably not going to be a very successful idea.
They actually have a casino, I thought, out in Vegas that had...
That's particularly why I'm going to say this, because they shut that down within a matter of a couple years.
No.
You didn't hear about this? This has been dead for quite some time.
You're saying nobody wants to go to Vegas with hookers and gambling and Star Trek?
No.
People just want the hookers and gambling?
People just want the hookers and gambling.
Even though they have to drive out of town to get to the hook?
When they opened the thing up, it was super popular. And then everybody was like, okay, we went. People treated it like Mecca.
So basically,
they make they make one pilgrimage, and then they're like, okay, we did it.
So it was a one and done kind of deal.
Yeah, for a lot of people, and that's how they saw it. From what I understand, it was a really interesting and neat kind of concept that they had, and there's still remnants of it that's still there. Like, they still have a bar that's still themed like the Quarg. What is it? I don't know. I don't Star Trek, which, by the way, we need to talk about it before we move on. But they what is it? What's the Cork bar?
That was the bar DS9.
That's still there, but it's just they took off all the explicit references to Star Trek out. So it's still kind of sci-fi themed. They have a gift shop that's still themed like that. You know, there's still bits and pieces of it still there, but it's not Star Trek. And they try to remove all the concepts of it. But by the way, I decided to give the Orville a try last night. Holy fuck, that's a great fucking show.
How are you all the way through season 1, or did you just try season?
I just watched the first couple episodes, and holy shit, that's a fucking great show.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's more Star Trek than Star Trek. What is happening in this universe when I have to turn to Family Guy to get a Star Trek episode instead of actual Star Trek?
Here's the thing. Seth MacFarlane was actually in as a extra in multiple Star Trek shows. And Seth and one of the Star Trek producers pitched the idea for the Orville to CBS, and they turned them down for a Star Trek show. And he said, you know what? I'm going to make my own Star Trek with blackjack and hookers.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be a couple episodes where blackjack and or hookers will be a theme.
Indeed, indeed. So we're going to hop over to the Pacific.
Which, by the way, I fucking hate Family Guy. Sorry. I fucking hate Family Guy.
Family Guy's terrible right now. It used to be good.
First couple
it should have died at its cancellation, and then we would have all had fond memories.
Yep.
So we're going to hop over to the Pacific. We had talked previously about how Sony had been censoring a lot of lewd content to make it more friendly for American audiences. Sword Art Online author Reki Kawahara to write more politically correct stories due to Western pressure. On January 18th, prominent Japanese video game news outlet Dengi Online published a group interview between Bloom and 2 artist Neo Nakatani, Sword Art Online author Reki Kawahara, and voice actress Ai Kano, who voices Alice and SAO and Sayaka in Bloom and 2. The three shared their thoughts regarding each other's work, such as the similarities between the writers in different genres, and the impressions the authors have of voice acting as the aspect of the animation adaptation of the respective series. During the interview, Kawahara and Nakatani begin to discuss the role of heroes and heroines in manga and anime. After Nakatani notes that she could see the influence of such works as Final Fantasy, Dragon's Quest, and Ghost in the Shell in Kawahara's work. If that's the case, she was being really nice to Kawahara. He's not good. On the subject, Nakatani complains that Kawahara has strong female characters in SAO, to which Kawahara responds the female characters will become more prominent in the future. According to Anime News Network, who translated the original Japanese video, when asked why female characters are prominent, Kawahara states this is due to fan pressure from the West. When Kayama asked what sparked the decision, Kawahara shared insight into his evolving mindset as an author. He said when he went to overseas events, he received feedback for his writing, and he came to the conclusion that he should write stories with political correctness in mind to a degree. For this reason, he is trying to give his female characters more agency. So, Reki, I'm going to say, buddy, you don't necessarily have to do that much. You took a strong female protagonist, and you put her in a cage, and you had a psycho rape her, and used mind control on her to rape her further. Just saying, maybe, don't make a popular character from your first season a rape victim in the second. That's a bad writing. That's a very bad writing, Reki. Also, learn how video games work when you write an anime about video games. Talentless hack. Kawahara said the gender-neutral words protagonist and antagonist are used instead of the gendered words hero and heroine. They'll press X to doubt on that one. He said that agreed that a character's gender shouldn't determine their role in the story and that it is wrong to treat female characters as trophies. Says the man who had a female character get raped and had another female character be a trophy for that raped female character and her boyfriend.
Oh, hold on a second. I'm going to do something on the back end real quick.
Okay.
There we go. Try that now. We were having some connection issues. Go ahead. Oh, are you there? Oh, now we're not getting anything at all. What is happening to Discord right now? Oof. This is not a boomer moment. I swear this is not a boomer moment. We're changing the server again.
On the role of the protagonist.
There we go. We had to do some stuff on the back end, and now your mic is messed up.
It is?
Nope, there you go. Go.
Okay.
Carry on.
The Yuri manga that both characters in the Yuri couple take on the role of the protagonist and motivate each other instead of one female character being relegated to the role of heroine. So what's funny about this is we have over here a heroine on the right-hand side and an advertisement for a movie featuring a heroine in the bottom. Kawahara's position divides members of the SAO fandom. While no one has had issue with the characters being given more agency, some fans express their fears that Kawahara will handily focus on political correctness going forward and ending up ruining the series. As this interview was published only 1 week ago, it has yet to be seen what effect Kawahara's new direction will have on the overall series. This is not the first time for Western sensibilities to have prompted action regarding SAO. Last year, a scene depicting sexual assault was censored in Western broadcasts of SAO. Kawahara himself received threats of violence from Western fans due to the content of the episode, prompting him to apologize to the voice actors for writing the original scene. So again, Reki, you don't need to be more politically correct. Maybe you shouldn't make a female character everyone's going to love and have her get raped for no real reason. Have her be raped in a way that doesn't, benefit the story. So, what do you think about this infection of Japanese culture by American culture, Jim?
Japanese culture is wildly different than American. And it's so funny because a lot of the people who are... Which, by the way, I'm not saying that it's a good thing. It's not. But I think it's kind of interesting to show that, a lot of these people are completely moral relativists. Legitimately moral relativists. They go well, we can't really judge people's culture back in those days and whatever. But on one hand, and then on the other hand, they'll turn around and say, well, Americans are bad today because everything that was terrible about America back in the day. Yeah. Or Japan is bad because they still don't respect women's. But it's okay. But it's okay for Muslims to stone women to death. That's all fine.
Let's push some gay people off the buildings in Iran.
That's fine.
Off the building. Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But my problem with this is more, we're going to remove the authenticity of Japanese culture from the Japanese cultural product. And I think we're going to be lesser for that. So there's something I wanted to bring up somewhat related to this. This features slight gender confused or different protagonists. Steven Universe had the end of its latest season. We've talked in the past a little bit about how Steven Universe has production problems because Cartoon Network has no standards. And possibly because Cartoon Network has deliberately screwed up how Steven Universe is broadcast on purpose to make it seem more popular. But the end of this current season, Steven Universe episode Change Your Mind is now the highest rated TV episode with more than 1,000 ratings. Beating out Robbie's Dream, multiple Game of Thrones episodes, and even Adventure Time, Come Along With Me. I have no idea what they mean by 1,000 ratings. So I want to talk a little bit about this because this is going to be interesting in the future. So Steven Universe is a show about a guy whose mom was a space alien, was a magic space rock, who's being raised by her friends, who are all magic space rock ladies, but they're genderless magic space rock ladies. And they're fighting the other magic space rock ladies from their planet that are kinda, sorta space Nazis. And they tried to destroy Earth with a weapon of mass destruction, had a little invasion a couple times. So Steven and his friends took the war back to the homeworld, and they made the space Nazis their friends. And they healed all the monsters that were created by the space Nazis. And Steven came to terms with the fact that his mom was one of the leaders of the space Nazis, and because she was selfish, she caused the space Nazi war on Earth.
Don't you hate that? I hate when that happens.
Steven Universe has a movie in the production pipeline and 2 more seasons. There's also a feature for the characters on the show where they combine together to become new characters. Well, during the final episode, it was like they were checking off all those boxes of, okay, all the original characters, Steven's combined with all of them now. So how are you going to have 2 more seasons of a show and a movie when you've done everything with your original season narrative tension?
I like money. I think that sums up the mindset over there right now.
So you think it's going to be? So you think it's going to be?
I like money
creative
too. We
bankruptcy?
should hang out.
So you think it's going to be creative bankruptcy, basically?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the show isn't really particularly good anyway, so.
Well, it has its moments. It has its moments. And the ending this season was actually good. I watched through all that. But we're going to talk about some bad things that are coming. Funko is getting a movie.
No, stop.
If you thought the Lego movie was vapid, but actually it was good because it had a good story. If you thought the Emoji movie was bad, Funko is getting a movie. So these little distorted-looking vinyl characters that have all the pop culture figures. Well, Warner Brothers is working on getting a movie with all of them. And they have already confirmed all the characters that are under the Warner Brothers umbrella are definitely going to be used. And all the characters that were used as part of the Lego movie license are currently in negotiations to be used as well.
Yeah, so this could be either. Like, I'm hesitant to immediately hate something based on something like this, like the Emoji movie. I was kind of like, yeah, this doesn't look like it's going to be a good thing, but who knows? Because we also said the same thing about the Lego movie, because everybody was like, this looks retarded. How could you make a movie out of Legos? And they did. And then everybody was jumping to the same conclusion about the Emoji movie, and I was kind of like, let's wait for it, because. And then the more information we got out of it, and the trailers dropped, and it's like, no, this is going to be stupid and vapid. And it was, and by I mean it was a fantastic film, one of the greatest films of all time.
I was actually surprised, and the Lego Batman movie was also very good.
I'm talking about the Emoji movie. It's the greatest movie that has ever existed, ever. In fact, we don't need any other movie.
No.
We just need to throw it all away.
Oh no!
I say jokingly.
So we're going to go through some rapid stuff related to comic books and comic book movies here. So Ben Affleck is officially out as Batman. Ben Affleck has said, good luck whoever else takes over Batman in 2021, which is 2 years later. Could you imagine that? Aquaman being the most successful movie starring Jason Momoa, and Ben Affleck, major movie star, can't get a Batman movie off the ground that he was supposed to direct, that he was supposed to write, that he was supposed to produce, and now he's completely out.
That tells you a lot, that how bad things are going over there, where the best movie of the DC universe so far has been a story about a character who is universally known as being a giant douchebag.
Well, he was known as a joke, and then they reinvented him into Underwater Conan. And Jason Momoa is sort of a merger of those two characters. Jason actually played Conan. Unfortunately, it was a bad Conan movie. It was disappointing. So, another Twitter guy talking about the importance of representation in comic books. Dear comics writers, we need more characters with Down syndrome, dwarfism, cerebral palsy, missing limb, varied weights and height, mental illness, chronic illness, etc. Powers should not just be bestowed upon the able-bodied. So, are you ready for a Handyman comic series? And right now, all the comic book characters are being written with post-traumatic stress disorder, so they all have mental illness right now. So
the Justice League was the reason why it was. I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the comics, because they're all superheroes. They had not only do they had their normal features, but they also had super abilities as well. If people have disabilities, there's a problem with them fighting crime because they're not able.
So, are you saying a dwarf with cerebral palsy and 4 missing limbs can't be a superhero, Jim?
Did you ever watch Did you ever watch the Simpsons episode? Or excuse me, did you ever watch a South Park episode called Cripple Fight?
Yep. Well, that was based off of a great fight from a great movie, They Live.
Yeah.
Which was a great movie and was the best movie of Roddy Piper's career.
But people want to see cripples fight each other because they're crippled. And when they fight against a real person, then it's not funny anymore because then it's just abusing the disabled. It's just disturbing. And they can't win because they're disabled. And if they're able, then they're not disabled.
Yeah. So, we're 1 year into the Brian Michael Bendis experiment over at DC
by the way,
Comics.
We've already had a great series of superheroes with the disability, or at least one. It's a great show. It's called Daredevil. Yes.
So we're a year into the Brian Michael Bendis run on Superman over at DC Comics, and he's set new records for the sales of Superman. He's pushing sales of Superman copies below 100,000 for the first time since they've done their rebirth. I mean, I don't know why. They ruined Superman.
So it was a threat.
It was indeed a threat. Bendis is coming. Bend over. So Superman's wife left him to hang out with his dad for a little while, who came back from the dead, and everybody thought, oh, that's fine. I'll let my wife and my kid go spend time with my dad, who's been previously dead, who I don't know as a person. That's what intelligent people do. And now his son came back. Instead of being 11, he's 17. He has a cool scar, and he's experienced deep, edgy stuff in the galaxy. And nobody wants to read that. I wonder why. And over at Marvel Comics, we have a guy named Joe Quesada. And he was trying to get Bill Maher to show up to a big charity fundraiser event as a memorial for Stan Lee. Now, the reason he did this is he was trying to get Bill Maher a good impression of comic book people after Bill Maher said, "You're all dumb man babies, and I'm glad Stan Lee was dead." So is this something a chief creative officer of a company should be doing? No. Sucking up to a man who will never be your friend, who will never be saying, "Hey, no, these nerds are cool." And also, can we all agree that Bill Maher's not funny? He was never funny.
No, I disagree.
I was never a fan of him as a stand-up comedian.
I think he's immensely funny, even though I disagree with his politics. Even when he makes a funny joke about politics, I fucking laugh. Now, granted, I have not seen Real Time with Bill Maher in quite some time. But even after I became a libertarian, I've gone back and watched the show and realized, yeah, you're not a real libertarian, but he's fucking funny. See, and all these late night show hosts like Colbert and all these other people. I mean, I could disagree with their politics and still find them funny, but they're just not funny. They're just not.
And our good buddy, Mr. Mark Waid, has got himself in trouble again. So we're going to play a little bit of a YouTube on that.
Oh, we're going to skip all those tweets.
I hate bullies, man.
Yeah.
I hate bullies.
I hate bullies, man. I hate bullies. I hate bullies, man. I hate bullies.
Hey guys, welcome back to another broadcast. Today I want to talk about our old friend Mark Waid, or more specifically, I want to talk about how once again the man who is in a $75,000 tortious interference lawsuit has sided with the bullies. That's right, Mark Waid, who is in a lawsuit with your boy Zach, aka Diversing Comics. This was a couple weeks ago, and this is some house cleaning on my part, didn't get to it, but we're getting to it today. So, for those that don't know, the Covington Catholic High School students, they were at the March for Life, waiting for their bus not too long ago in Washington, D.C. A bunch of weirdo activists start coming up to them. This is a 2-hour video, roughly. Started calling them all sorts of racial names, calling them cracker, telling them to go back to Europe, and all sorts of other things I can't really say without getting my YouTube channel in trouble. Anyway, then this Native American guy, Nathan Phillips, who's like 66 years old, starts beating his drum with his fellow activist, goes right in this kid's face, beating his drum, and doing all this sort of stuff. The kid has a nervous smile on his face. CNN and a bunch of others run with it, spreads all across the media. Because this kid was smiling, that was somehow evidence that he was racist. And everybody, they reported that the kids, they found out the Native American who said he was a Vietnam veteran, then he was a Vietnam Times veteran. Turns out he was in the middle of the country as a
So, for those of you who, well, you all know, as this happened, this has become a big hullabaloo, where people who are on Team Orange Man are saying, well, everybody's against these kids because they support Trump, and everybody else says these kids are racist because they support Trump. And Mark Waid decided he was going to start making some derogatory comments about these kids. And they have a lawyer who says that he will represent people in suing them. Kathy Griffin pulled back her terrible comments. And do you want to talk a little bit more about the Covington thing? Kind of touch on this
so first,
a little bit?
Yeah, there was like a little snippet of a video that came out where a Native American was beating his drum in front of a group of kids. And they were portraying it as like these kids came up to this Native American and got in his face, and they're awful, terrible racists. And then it turned out, oh no, they were just waiting for a bus after the event was over, and a group started, attacking them from two different angles. You had the Black Israelites who were saying racist things against white people, and then you had the Native American who just was banging his drum and misrepresented what happened to the news media, and they just took it and ran it, and without doing any sort of investigative journalism whatsoever, or any sort of journalism whatsoever, and just was like, oh, this is what he said, we're just going to say this is true. And then it turned out, oh no, it was all wrong. It was all wrong. Yeah. And instead of all these people who were initially saying these things retracting their comments, saying like, oh, well, it was misrepresented, I made some bad judgments, I'm sorry, they double down. They all double down.
They didn't take the lesson from PewDiePie. Yep. I made an oopsie doopsie.
Oopsie doopsie.
We've all made oopsie doopsies. And I posted on Twitter asking Mark Waid's attorney of record if he was going to be defending him in a second defamation lawsuit if that comes along. I also asked if defamation lawsuits are like, the old Subway cards where, if you buy 6 subs, you get 7 subs for free.
Mm-hmm.
So can he defame 6 people and then they have to cover him for the 7th suit at cost? I have not gotten a response back yet from Mark Waid about that, so we'll go into more detail on that as it continues. And on a related note, and we watched a little bit of a video that touched on it. Mecha Random, a friend, part of the broader network of people who are all interconnected with Midnight's Edge. I alluded to her being attacked, and we got a little story on Bleeding Fool about this. So what is happening on the scene that is a devoted Star Trek fan gets herself a channel, help pumped up numbers for hits for CBS? Well, strange as it may sound, those of you out there who might not have heard, some famous Star Trek actors' children actually got their fifis all hurt. Astonishingly, it ends up with a trash mob lined up to attack a YouTube commentator, Mecha Random 42, as she's known for her commentary on the gaming community, but frequently espouses her thoughts on geek film and TV properties such as Doctor Who and Star Trek. Her recent rants about Star Trek caught the ire of some angry fans that felt compelled to send their nastiness to her. You can just look at some of these posts. These are some winners. And I'm going to quote these things because these are from horrible people who need to be quoted. Stupid twat, you are not a fan, go to hell, you deserve shit, you cow, die. You are not a fan, you're just a pile of shit, go F yourself, you arrogant
It
C-word.
sounds like these people need to learn how to respect women's.
They do, but also, 1 of 10 troll, you know, you don't want to go with the T word and the C word at the same time. You're basically repeating yourself. You can do better. See me after class. I'm sorry, but really I have to ask, why do you and others like you feel the need to exclaim that this is somehow a show for those who hate Star Trek? Because it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, we live in a world where people have sexualities and different identities that they get to express.
We live in a society.
We live in a society. And so when these people are oppressed, they get their ability to say, well, no, it's all about, you know, your white male cis heterodox oppression. But when other people feel that the dominant media narrative oppresses them, oh no, you can't complain against our corporate overlords and masters. So yeah, so Chris Hunter, who is the son of the guy who plays Captain Pike from the original Star Trek, was organizing with Pablo Hidalgo, who may or may not have a job, a internet mob against her and against Doomcock. So if you are a guy who's sitting behind a desk at a major studio and you're organizing how the Star Wars universe goes, and you say, nah, I'm gonna spend my time organizing YouTube and Twitter trolls to attack people and harass them. Is that a thing a person who has a job, a secure job, is gonna do?
No.
No.
By the way, is this a tweet? Am I still showing the Bleeding Fool thing?
Yeah, that's the Bleeding Fool thing. Yeah, I was actually reading from the original article.
Oh, okay.
Because you could do that. And but the Minecraft mobs are taking it up a step further. So, have you ever watched Prison Planet? Or listened to anything related to the Prison Planet program by Alex, I'm a Gay Frog Jones?
Damn it, you stole my thunder. I was just going to bring up the gay frogs. It's so beautiful.
It's one of those things that, like, you're thinking, how does nobody? Also, we're gonna be moving to Subscribestar, so we will have a special tier for editing out cat sounds. We both have cats, and we're both at the level of doing YouTube that we don't have properly soundproof broadcast areas yet. So there may be a need for a special bonus for monies to delete cat voices.
Yep.
Are you trying to... You got the gay frog?
I'm trying to get the gay frog, but I'm being attacked by cat.
So let me read this tweet from Nathan Bernard, who, surprise, has a blue check mark. This YouTuber with 20 million subscribers is praising Prison Paul from InfoWars for his great work. Radicalization.
Oh, you're talking about... I thought you were talking about Alex Jones, not Paul Joseph Watson.
Well, no. Right, but still, he's part of,
right.
An evil right-wing network. Like, and the guy whose comment was, I've never made money on my conspiracy videos, and I've had some removed. It's a risk of being in the dark. Shit, I guess. Love your stuff, by the way. So yes, he was commenting on another YouTuber saying, hey, YouTube's being shady with stuff and not being transparent. And somebody is coming out and saying, hey, we're gonna possibly get you deplatformed for having the audacity of watching Alex Jones. Can we stop that?
Yeah.
Can we please stop that? Can people just like things? Or can people just laugh at a man dressed up as a gay frog? Because that's utterly and totally ridiculous. Now, I'm going to skip down mainly because we got some bigger stories down the line and it's 10:30-ish.
We're starting to get...
So I'm going to go to these two links. Yeah. Well, no, it's that we had some things that we didn't think were going to be as good for comments as they were, but they were. So we learned a lesson on that.
Yep.
So Marvel and DC are both looking into developing a young adult book line. So the first link here I'm going to show off is the Captain Marvel book, which it actually looks kind of interesting. So here's the link, Jim. It's kind of like a cool picture. And DC is also doing a line of young adult and mid-grade book imprints as well. So let me ask you an evocative question. How many people do you think read comic books?
I don't know.
Somewhere around, let's say, 30 to 50,000 read comic books on a regular or semi-regular basis.
Okay. I would imagine it would be higher than that, but okay.
That's somewhere around where the average is, though comic book industry makes it hard for you to know where they... But superheroes are bigger and more popular than everything. So if you work at DC Comics or you work at Marvel Comics, do you want to have tens of thousands of readers or do you want to have hundreds of thousands of readers?
Hundreds. I want lots. I want more.
So they're trying to push into book publishing. And they're going to most likely get a license deal to start doing some book publishing. So the question's been asked by somebody on YouTube, and I thought it was an interesting question to talk about. Do you think that comic books are going to go away and they're going to become entirely properties that are licensed to third-party companies? And that these third-party book companies will be what drives the future TV shows and movies and cartoons that are the big money makers?
I think the idea of comic book stores, that's going to go the way of the dodo.
Yeah,
I mean, what's the point? You can buy everything on Amazon now. You can pirate everything. You have things like what is the what's that new service that you can read comic books? I started noticing, I started getting ads
there's a couple of those services. One of those is actually owned by Amazon.
Okay, because there's one that I keep getting recommended on my Nintendo Switch, which I don't read comics, so it's not interesting to me. But it's kind of interesting that that's a thing that I could read comic books on my Nintendo Switch. It's called Inky something or whatever. You just pay like a monthly thing, and you can read as much as you want.
And also related to your comment about comic book stores, when minimum wage strikes hit a San Francisco comic book store. So a comic book store in San Francisco called the Comics Experience is struggling to stay open now that we have a $15 an hour minimum wage. My local comic book shop, I think, pays about $9 an hour where I'm at here, and they're on very thin margins, and they don't just sell comics. So, yeah, we're going to go to the point where Amazon is where you get your comics and where you get everything. Stores are going to be going by the wayside.
Those guys really do look like they're from San Francisco.
They totally do. They totally do. And the only
sorry, go ahead.
And the only way the only way we're going to get alternatives to the dominant corporate comic books is to go to third-party sites like Indiegogo. Well, noted right-wing figure Vox Day, who we're going to talk about in a more positive light in a moment, but we're going to talk about it in a negative light first because this is kind of important. During a live stream with Nick Rekieta, he said that he and his legal team have determined where the children of the executives for crowdfunding site Indiegogo, which recently banned him, live and went to school.
Or is this the Man Boobs article?
No, this is not the Man Boobs article.
Okay.
We're going to get to Man Boobs in a moment. Let me pop that link over here in the doobly-doo. Whoop, wrong one.
Oof.
Wrong link. That's okay.
Boomer moment. Boomer moment.
It's this one here.
Okay.
So let's again, when you're on a live stream talking to a lawyer about legal issues, maybe it's not a good idea to post a fact that you're veiledly threatening a major corporate executive's children. Maybe that's not a good look. Maybe you shouldn't do that. But he has another little problem that's happened recently. His entire publishing house has been shut down from Amazon. However, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, but here, let's post this Twitter up here that talks a little bit about it. Oh yeah, that article's good too. That's an older one, but this whole fight comes over this book that's coming in. So actually scroll down on the book to the two pictures of the two book covers. So Vox Day is a noted right-wing figure and tried to organize a group of right-wing producers in the book industry to getting the science fiction award cycle to take them more seriously. One of the big guys who was going against him was John Scalzi. So he made a rip-off book, more or less, of John Scalzi's book. The plots of the book are different, but these two covers they're kind of similar. But you know what else is similar? The Transmorphers and the Transformers, which you can both buy on Amazon. So this old incident, which is from back in 2017, somebody from Amazon shut it down, and Vox Day appealed over that employee's head and got it restored. Well, now he's gotten banned outright from Amazon, and his company's been deplatformed by some employee, and all the requisite data that's in there was deleted, which is also a problem because the requisite data is also the taxi data for our friend the government who wants to collect tax information, especially sales taxes from Amazon. So the big question we have to ask here is that if some employee at Amazon can completely destroy a company unaccountably, why should we trust Amazon as a way to do business?
Yep. Which I'm no fan of Vox Day at all, but come on.
Come on, this is a problem. Yes, Vox Day has done something horrible, threatening people's children on a live stream. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't ever threaten children.
Yep.
And also, on a related note, Rushvi had come out with... We're going to further garbage people on the internet.
Yeah.
He also has been... He went into some details about that, and he's actually been banned recently from Airbnb, a service he's not used in over 2 years. So all these edgy boys on the internet are getting targeted by these companies, all suspiciously at random. But is it really at random? So there's an interesting article that came up as I was doing research from The Guardian. It's called "The Goal is to Automate Us. Welcome to the Age of Surveillance Capitalism." We're living through the most profound transformation in information environment since Johannes Gutenberg's invention of the printing press circa 1439. And the problem with living through a revolution is that it's impossible to take this long to take the long view of what's happening. Hindsight is the only exact science in this business, and in the long run, we're all dead. Printing shaped and transformed societies over the next 4 centuries, but nobody in the Mainz, Gutenberg's hometown in, say, 1495, could have known that his technology would, among other things, fuel the Reformation and undermine the authority of the mighty Catholic Church, enable the rise of what we now recognize as modern science, create unheard of professions and industries, change the shape of our brains, and even recalibrate our perceptions of childhood. And yet printing did all of this. And now we get to the meat here. which is why the arrival of Shoshana Zuboff's new book is such a big event. Many years ago, in 1988 to be precise, as one of the first female professors in the Harvard Business School to hold an endowed chair, she published a landmark book, The Age of the Smart Machine, The Future of Work and Power, which changed the way we thought about the impact of computerization on organizations and on work. It provides the most insightful account up to that time of the digital technology and the changing work of both managers and workers. And then Zuboff appeared to go quiet, though she was clearly incubating something bigger. The first hint was to come on a pair of startling essays, one in the Academic Journal in 2015 and the other in a German newspaper in 2016. What these reveals was that she had been coming up with a new lens through which to view what Google, Facebook, et al. Were doing, nothing less than spawning a new variant of capitalism. Those essays promised a more or less comprehensive expansion of the big idea, and now it has arrived, the most ambitious attempt to paint the bigger picture and to explain how the effects of digitalization we are now experiencing as individual citizens have come about. Surveillance capitalism, she writes, universally claims human experience as free, raw material for translation into behavioral data. Although some of that data are applied to service improvement, the rest are declared as proprietary behavioral surplus, fed into advanced manufacturing processes known as machine intelligence, and fabricated into prediction products that anticipate what you will do now, soon, and later. Finally, these predicted products are traded into a new kind of marketplace that I call behavioral futures markets. Surveillance capitalists have grown immensely wealthy from trading operations from many companies that are willing to lay bets on these future behaviors.
Yep, and it doesn't.
So
and then when you got things on top of this, like Operation Choke Point, this is where things get really ugly.
Yes,
really ugly. It was already ugly.
Yes. So the reason I kind of put this here as a framework, let's say you believe that it's your job now in this new age of capitalism is to fabricate data. Are outlying voices something to be incorporated, something to be promoted, something to be developed into their own product, or is it cheaper and easier to silence them?
Yeah, just silence them.
And I think that is what we're experiencing today. And this philosophy is spread out and distributed over a bunch of different things. And on a related note to that, did you know Facebook is paying teenagers to download a VPN that spies on them?
Oh,
that is so weird.
Imagine my shock.
Desperate for data on its competitors, Facebook has been secretly paying people to install a Facebook Research VPN that lets the company suck in all the users' phone and web activity, similar to Facebook's Avavo Protect app that Apple banned in June that was removed in August. Facebook sidesteps the App Store and rewards teenagers and adults to download the Research app and give it root access to network traffic in what may be a violation of Apple policy, so the social network can decrypt and analyze their phone activity, a TechCrunch investigation confirms.
Yep.
So you want to have a VPN to protect yourself on the internet.
Yep.
And now they're weaponizing privacy against you yet again.
Yep.
And
by the way, let me recommend two of them, and I'm not getting paid for this at all.
By the way, if you are either of these companies and you want to pay us, we've made our access information available online.
There's two companies that I will recommend. One of which I will disclose that I was working, or not working. I wasn't getting paid. I was volunteering for a nationally syndicated talk radio show, which is now defunct, which was sponsored by a company called Bola VPN, which is a good VPN. The one that I personally use, that I enjoy, which I have some reservations because of one of the new chief technology officers they just hired was an executive from Mt. Gox. So, but they do offer a really good service, and it seems as though that he's not messing with that particular aspect of it. But the attitude seems to be a little bit questionable, but it's still a great service. Private internet access. Two great ones, and they're not being ran by some fuckhead social media company that's just out to data mine all of your information. They're legitimate, great companies.
So we're going to skip down to one of our two big stories that we have to talk about left on the agenda.
Okay. Which is?
So the Jussie Smollett attack in Chicago. And as always, when it comes to social media,
attack.
This alleged attack, yes, alleged attack. Jim and I both have a policy of whenever you see something too good to be true on the internet, you just wait, because eventually the truth is going to come out. So, Jim, I'm going to ask you a few questions before we start discussing this incident.
Okay.
2 a.m. It's -7 below zero. And you're hungry. What do you do?
Call Postmates.
Do you walk to a Subway
No.
to get food?
God, no. You call Grubhub.
Exactly. So, Jussie Smollett left his apartment to get some food at a Subway. And I was actually shocked to find out that there are 24-hour Subways.
Yes.
I have questions. I have questions.
They're a thing. This is a thing. I wouldn't frequent isn't the right word, but I do use them occasionally.
I'm just saying, is this a drunk food scenario? Like you've been drinking, get some Subway to soak up that alcohol? Is that what that is?
It's one of those things where it's like you've been drinking and you go, you know what? I had carne asada nachos earlier today. Probably not a good idea to get a burger. I'm going to get some food that at least it looks like it's health food, even though it's clearly not. Yeah. That's what Subway's for.
Yeah. So, Jussie Smollett from the TV show Empire was walking back from Subway, allegedly. Speaking to his manager on the phone, again, allegedly, and he was assaulted by some gay bashers. Now,
very allegedly.
We're going to go into more details about this story in a moment. But this transaction happened on the phone, and he then returned to his building, and he allegedly, at the time, though the video footage of his guards at his building didn't seem to indicate that, he had allegedly been soaked with bleach or a chemical of some sort, and had a thin rope around his neck that he was wearing like a necktie. So, Jim, bleach freezes at 15 degrees Fahrenheit. It was -7 out there. So, if you're going to attack somebody at -7 with bleach, which is really weird, doesn't seem like a thing, that means you'd have to have that bleach sitting in a car, which means you'd be having a premeditated attack on somebody, right?
Yeah, you could probably have it on your persons, and that would keep it kind of warm enough.
But not for very long.
No. That's really fucking cold.
Yeah, and when he walked to the guards didn't say anything, and you know, if you'd been splashed in -2 degree weather with chemicals and had a rope around your neck, and I was a security guard at your building and I saw you, unless that happened on a regular basis, I would be having some questions.
Nah, I don't know if you've ever seen what happens when you put bleach on clothes that aren't pure white.
They become kind of splotchy.
Yeah, and you kind of go like, hey, would you just get splashed with something right now? And you smell like bleach. And what's
also,
that rope around your neck?
And also, in most jurisdictions, if you believe somebody has been a victim of a violent crime and they're acting kind of strange, you have a legal responsibility to call the police. How much legal responsibility you have varies based on a lot of the factors, but if you think somebody's been attacked, you kind of have an obligation to call the police and say, hey, cops, this guy in our building, he had a rope around his neck and smelled of chemicals. But no, it was like about 45 minutes later, a friend convinced him to call the police. He didn't want to call the police. And when the police came to his house, he asked them to turn off their body cams. He said he was attacked at the time by a bunch of guys in black hoods and black clothes. When he woke up the next morning, though, they were wearing Trump hats.
Of course.
And they were saying, are you the black gay actor? Because apparently they were rednecks as well. And one of his neighbors said, oh yeah, I totally saw a bunch of rednecks wandering around this neighborhood in below zero weather when homeless people, homeless people don't stay out in below zero weather.
No. What they do is they start acting crazy and get admitted into a psychiatric facility, or they commit a felony.
Yes.
So and then they get 3 hots and a cot in jail.
Yes.
That's what they do. They do that in Vegas when it's not that cold. It gets cold, but not that cold. It's not -7.
And
in the middle of a vortex.
Jussie Smollett also was known for having reprehensible tweet wars back and forth with Trump on Twitter, which also makes this all kind of suspicious. And
Back and forth, or you mean just back?
Just back. Trump didn't respond.
Yeah, I can't imagine him responding.
And so the police and the FBI took a statement, and they started reviewing video footage. And they couldn't find any camera footage from any of the many closed-circuit cameras in that particular area of Chicago that had a footage of this attack happening.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find anybody who was even in the area other than him. And he lives in an area of Chicago that's downtown that has been having a bad rash of violent shootings and crimes. So if you lived in an area with violent shootings and crimes, it's -7 below zero. Are you going down to Subway?
Yeah, oh, I found my controller. Here we are. I'm pressing X.
So we have some questions, and both he and his agent refused to turn over their phones to the police, which they have a legal right to refuse to do. The phones that they said were part of this whole incident being heard on, and these are cell phone companies. Of course, they have a feature that allows you to pick up recordings after a certain amount of time, because they all have secret spy modes in them. Mm-hmm. So there's an interesting theory a friend of mine and I talked about. You know what might get you out at -7 below zero? If you hit up on Grindr and you're looking for a guy. I mean, I wouldn't go out for a girl in -7 degree below zero weather. I might tell her, hey, I'll pay for your Uber to come over here. But I'm not going out in that weather.
So here's what may have happened if there was an attack. Probably what may have happened. Mm-hmm. Hit someone up on Grindr. They didn't turn out that well. Met a bad apple. I don't want to admit that I fucked up on Grindr. With Trump supporters.
Yeah.
Homeless Trump supporters with MAGA hats. Seems legit.
Seems legit. We don't know this for a fact, and while things like, we don't want the police body cams on when you're in my house, okay, that's a reasonable thing. Don't want to turn over my phone to the police because I don't trust them, okay, that's also a reasonable thing. But combined with all the other things going on, there's something suspicious going on.
Yeah.
But now we get to talk about a Mean Girl lynch mob that happened. And I'm going to go to Tablet, which is an excellent publication run by a bunch of Jewish writers. How a Twitter mob derailed an immigrant female author's budding career. Months away from publishing her debut novel, a young Asian author and rising star of young adult fiction just killed her own book to appease social media mob condemning her work as racist, despite the fact they most likely hadn't read it. Now, I'm only going to read the rest of the article, because the rest of the article really goes into some interesting details here, but this is pretty problematic in and of itself. So, Emil Zhao, she was an up-and-coming author. There were people who were looking to recruit underprivileged, underrepresented folks in the publishing business. They had a big event to do a pitch, and she got, from Penguin Random House, $500,000 advance on a trilogy of books. So what happened to her to cause her book not to be published at her own request? Zhao's troubles appear to have started last week, but it's impossible to comprehend her precipitous fall without understanding a little bit about the insular, frequently vicious world of young adult Twitter, an online community composed of authors, editors, agents, reviewers, and readers that appears to skew significantly older than the actual readership of the popular genre of young adult fiction, which is roughly half teens and half adults. As Kat Rosenfield, a tablet writer who is herself a published young adult author, wrote a devastating, entertaining vulture feature on the toxic drama of young adult Twitter in the summer of 2017. Young adult books are being targeted in intense social media callouts, draggings, and pile-ons, sometimes before anyone has even read them. Paroxysms tend to focus on issues of social justice and representation, and to be sure, many respected authors, publishers, and other young adult figures argue that the genre has legitimate work to do with regards to diversity and representation. As is the case with many other areas of media, the competitive nature of young adult publishing and the limited, oftentimes rather winner-take-all nature of its financial rewards mean that those who enter the field with significant resources already at their disposal often enjoy an unfair advantage. The latest statistics show that authors of color are still underrepresented, even as books about minority characters are on the uptick. So, young Chinese lady gets a 6-figure book deal, and then a mean girl Twitter mob comes after her. Do you think the motivation might be greed? Desire for money? So, let me skim down here a little bit. I mentioned the Whisper campaign on Twitter without naming names, thinking it might fizzle out, and then forgot about it. But by the time I dipped a toe into young adult Twitter a few days later on Tuesday night, things had exploded. Young adult Twitter was attacking Zhao's still unpublished book, Blood Heir, on multiple fronts. As usual, the standards of the argument appeared rather strange and lacking to an outsider. Ella McKinley, a young adult author who recently published her own debut novel, highlighted for her 10,000-plus Twitter followers the fact that one of Blood Heir's blurbs read in part, "In a world where the princess is the monster, oppression is blind to skin color, and good and evil rest in shades of gray." Someone explain this to me. Explain it to me right the FUQ now. She tweeted, "I don't give a good GD that this is an author of color," she said later in a tweet storm. This woman, by the way, is white. Internalized racism and anti-blackness is a thing I know. The argument, such as it appears to be, is that our world oppression isn't blind to skin color. To write about a fantasy world in which it is an act of anti-blackness. There need to be a little comma there. So, Jim, what do you think? Do fantasy worlds have to have real-world racism in them?
No.
Are you saying fantasy worlds are allowed to have fantastical and different things that allow us to recontextualize facts from our world in new and different ways and possibly enable us to come up with new and different ways to live in our own world? In theory.
Yes. I think that's what the whole genre is about, to escape reality.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Shit, my life sucks. I got to deal with a whole bunch of stuff. And I might be of a different persuasion that has to deal with extra shit on top of it. You know what I want to read? How shitty my life is. That's what I want to read right now. Mm-hmm. No one says that. No one goes, everybody
wants me feel good to read about other people who are having terrible lives just like mine.
Yeah.
But perhaps the most damaging drawn-out broadside came from Ellen Oh, an established young adult writer who is herself of Asian descent and who co-founded We Need Diverse Books. Oh published an extended tweet storm to her 11,000-plus Twitter followers, in which she noted colorblindness is extremely tone-deaf. By the way, she later apologized that tone-deaf is ableist, and that she still has a lot to learn. Now, I'm going to talk to Asian writers, she wrote, particularly Asian writers who did not grow up in Western countries like Zhao. Your lack of awareness may not be your fault given your lack of cultural context, but it is your fault that you did not educate yourself when it is expressly brought up to you. The admonishment continued, and if you have the luxury of getting important criticisms before your book is actually published, it's your responsibility to make it right. Do right by the audience that your book will be reading. Do right by the kids who will be reading your book. So, let's review a Asian person who grew up in a Western country with privilege, in their own terminology, likely with wealth, and who definitely has wealth now. He's saying to an Asian woman who grew up in poverty in China and in South Asia that it's her duty to learn about the underprivileged people in rich Western countries who have it better than she ever did in China. So, how does that make any sense?
I don't know. I have no idea.
While the colorblindness accusation was part of the campaign against Zhao, the most potent claims of anti-black racism stemmed from a rumor that swept through the community based on advanced copies of Blood Heir that had already been released. It was alleged that the novel contained scenes involving chattel slavery or something like it. We're going to underline or something like it, including one in which a black character named May sings the protagonist Anna immediately before dying. The assumption that May is black has fueled a lot of anger. The criticism seemed to be that Zhao was positioning a black character as disposable for a plot device. And I'm going to skim down here. The controversy hinges in part on the character of May being black. Whatever one thinks of the argument that the book, or the excerpts of it that have been posted online, is problematic, if May isn't black, it's a lot harder to justify treating her depiction or treatment in the book as an act of anti-black racism. And there just doesn't appear to be any hard evidence that Zhao intended for May to be read as black. Characters to extend to the real-world concepts of race even make sense in fantasy setting. Zhao didn't respond to a request from the author to comment on that. In one excerpt from Blood Air posted online, May is described as having the skin of bronze of their sands at sunset. There, referring to a geographic location in her book, and the woman who appears to have made the Whisper campaign public with her initial tweets, noted that in another point, May is described as tawny. Of course, black or African American covers a wide range of skin tones, but tawny is questionably one of them. Bronze is ambiguous. I'd always associated with Mediterranean people, and certainly applies to people of African descent, but it can have Latin American connotations too. All in all, if someone is described as having tawny or bronze skin in a fantasy novel, there's no good reason to assume on the basis of that and that alone that they're black in a sense of how the term is used as a racial designator in the real world. So, she used fantasy, slavery, to talk about the oppression of people working in places like Foxconn. And so, white, black, brown, and Asian people who all came from a world of privilege, all haven't had to work 12, 16-hour shifts in a horrible factory in South or East Asia, are focusing entirely on their own shared cultural frame of reference to say it's about American slavery. Does this feel diverse to you, Jim?
I don't know.
Are these people being tolerant of somebody else's opinions and experiences?
I'm sorry. It seems as though this whole thing is being just a whole bunch of Nazi racist KKK. Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here is the author's capitulation to the mean girl mob on Twitter. To the book community, I want to start by saying that I have the utmost respect to your voices and I am listening. I am grateful to those of you who have raised questions around representation, coding, and themes of my book. Note, we talked about Kara's apology. Note, she's immediately addressing the controversy. And she's not saying it's all your fault immediately. That's what a person who's not guilty of something does. Right there. I immigrated from China when I was 18, drawing on my own multicultural upbringing and complex history of my heritage that includes instances of bias and oppression. I wrote Blood Air from that immediate cultural perspective. The issues around affinitive indenture and the story represent a specific critique of the epidemic of indentured labor and human trafficking prevalent in many countries, in many industries across Asia, including in my own home country. The narrative and history of slavery in the United States is not something I can, would, or intended to write. But I recognize that I'm not writing in merely my own cultural context. I'm sorry for the pain that this has caused. It's never my intention to bring harm to any reader of this valued community, particularly those to whom I seek to write and empower. As such, I have decided to ask my publisher not to publish Blood Air at this time, and they have agreed. I don't wish to clarify, defend, or have anyone defend me. This is this is an apology. With the feedback of the community, I feel that this is the right decision. So, how are we going to have free speech and art if a woman who's an immigrant, who's made something of her life, was very successful, is not allowed to publish a book and have her own success?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm really against the whole kind of Twitter mob thing. Just, hey, let's just all dogpile on people who we disagree with, judge people based on things. We don't know all the details quite yet. And it even kind of goes into the whole Kiro thing that we were talking about earlier as well.
Yeah.
I'm against the whole kind of like Twitter mobbing him, and because then it leads into death threats and stuff as well. We can all kind of talk about like how we think that he's completely guilty. That's fine. But let's wait for everything to come out before we jump on things. Same thing with let's dogpile on all these kids who who are getting drummed at. Apparently, they were the bad guy because they were wearing MAGA hats.
It's they were white, and white people are terrible.
Yeah.
White people are just the worst.
Twitter mobbery is always not a good thing.
Yeah. So we ended up finding a theme through the show after all. It's about how to make an authentic apology, and it's about the fact that online lynch mobs and hate mobs and mean girl mobs are literally the worst.
Yep.
And we need to all act like normal people and go out in a negative 7-degree weather and get a Subway sandwich.
Which I'm tempted to do right now. I'm starving.
So, I saw 2 movies, and then we're going to get into our piece of resistance.
I just saw one. I did watch The Orville. I'm not going to talk about that because I know we've talked about The Orville at length. So, I'll just leave it with, I thought it was good.
Yeah, I'm actually going to save talking about it again until the season, so we can talk about the 2 seasons together and the continuity bubble.
Once I catch up, because I'm only in 2 episodes, so that's what I'm going to be doing tonight.
So we're going to talk about The Kid Who Would Be King first.
Okay. Oh, good thing I didn't. Okay, there we go.
So we both joked about this movie when we saw it in the previews that we thought, oh my god, this is going to be horrible trash.
Then I started seeing the Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm like, okay, hold on. Maybe.
So the movie, its biggest problem was it's a movie starring kids.
Yeah.
And when I watched the movie, I was flashing back to when the Harry Potter movies first started. They hit a home run with all of those kid actors. The 4 central actors were all good actors at a young age. They all stayed good actors as they got older. And I was thinking like how Jake Lloyd was, he was a fine actor, but he wasn't able to do what the movie demanded of him. The biggest problem I have with The Kid Who Would Be King is the movie asked the kids to do more than they were able to act. And the movie suffered because they weren't put in situations where they were able to succeed well. So I'm going to talk about my favorite thing in the movie first. So Merlin comes back from the other realm that he was sleeping in to train up Arthur as he's supposed to do, because Arthur comes back and fights forces of evil. And he needs a magic potion to get himself cured up. He needs like various bugs and bone and gristle. And he discovers all the ingredients he has need for are at a fried chicken joint, included in the food. Like the red food coloring for one of the sodas is made out of beetle blood. I thought, that is really great. I really liked the fact that the movie did that. that was the most creative thing that was in the movie, and the movie as a central theme said, kids are the future. If we don't let them be stopped, they know the right way, and they get corrupt as they become older. It's basically Rousseau and his view on childhood. And that's fine. And they wanted it to be about the kids recontextualizing knighthood and chivalry to become the leaders to solve the terrible shattered world that happens post-Brexit. And they allude to the Brexit and all the upheavals in our current age. But they don't show the kids recontextualizing chivalry, recontextualizing honor and virtue into moving forward in the world. They barely contextualize the kids being brave. In fact, in the big climactic battle sequence, to get most of the kids to join in the fight, Merlin had to hypnotize the teachers into saying, this would count as all your schoolwork for the day.
That's actually interesting. Okay.
That's you have to have a little bit of humor in there, but the problem is that the movie had these big themes and big ideas, and it didn't really want to do anything with them. So that was what was disappointing.
But was it a good movie, though? Was it entertaining?
It was not the worst movie I've sat through. Obviously, that would be Holmes and Watson recently. If I had a kid, I would be upset if I brought my kid into that movie because it's below the standards I would show to a kid. But I don't fault anybody who doesn't share my standards for children's entertainment, who would find it fine.
Okay.
There was a subplot that the Arthur kid, whose name was Alexander, was looking for his dad, but his dad was really a drunken deadbeat, and who didn't love him, and his mother lied about his dad being a good person. I really didn't understand what they were going for in that plot line. It was like a weird little element. And they have a female as Sir Kay. And Sir Kay, if you don't know your lore of King Arthur, was King Arthur's foster brother, who was a bully and tormented him, but later became one of his most trusted knights. And making him someone external to Arthur was a mistake. You don't get to have any of the fun parts of the character. So it was fine, but it was a movie that fell short of its own expectations because the people who wrote the script weren't really literate about Arthur. They were at best literate of the stuff that would be in badly written children's books about Arthur.
Okay.
And they didn't want to go deeper.
Okay.
I also saw Polar on Netflix, which was pretty good. It had one of the guys of these Nordic actors who were really big. The Mikkelsen, I think it is. One of them was playing an old hitman who was several days about to be retired as part of a giant hitman organization that's about to be bought out by another big criminal organization. And so the guy who owns the company decides he's going to help secure a buyout by killing all the hitmen who were about to go on pension. And downsize them. Of course, there's one guy that he's told, hey, you don't want to screw with that guy. And he screws with that guy, so he kills everybody. It's like Retirement Home John Wick.
In a good way or a bad way?
It was higher end for a Netflix movie. I liked it. The biggest complaint I have about the movie is they used CGI blood effects.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. No. If you're gonna have a high octane action movie, use real blood effects.
Unless your character's a CG. Don't do that.
Because the CG blood effects, they never look good.
No. Never.
They are always terrible. There was also a sex scene where one of the female assassins was coming after him. They like teased it where like she was super hot into him. So she got to have sex with him, and then he used her to block the first sniper bullet that was coming to kill him. So it was good. It was like upper end Netflix, a B+ or an A- kind of thing.
Okay, I'll have to look into that one then.
So now we're going to get to the crown jewel of tonight.
But let's preface this first because we want to present this movie while a dialogue is happening in the chat room or on Twitter or whatever.
Yes.
So we're going to be, because we're now reviewing every week a terrible movie or allegedly terrible movie every week, and we decide on some movies, but we're having a standstill, so we're reaching out to you guys to tell us what we should watch next. And so we're going to be positing 2 possibilities, and so you guys can discuss it while we're discussing the movie that we watched this week. So the movie that we have is either Movie 43, which is a alleged comedy, which is a series of sketches, which is deemed to be one of the worst movies ever made. But it has an all-star cast that had done everything that they could to avoid being in this, but they were contractually obligated to do it somehow. And it's bad. So watch some of the reviews of it on YouTube. It's amazing, some of the reviews. And then the other one that we wanted to watch is a biopic, allegedly, not allegedly. It's definitely not about L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology.
It's not about L. Ron Hubbard. So they are not going to be sued by Scientology over it. So we do have to review it. But
they were. And
because it was.
And a lot of people, including a lot of critics of Scientologists, also critics of Scientologists who are also in the film review business or in the film industry, who had said that Scientology had done us a favor by not letting this movie be released because it was so bad, called The Prophet, which was actually funded by, rest in peace, Bob Minton, who was the head of the Lisa McPherson Trust, which is a Scientology, anti-Scientology protest organization, which was funded by him as a passion project, retirement project that he wanted to do.
The This is a propaganda movie that rotted from the inside out and was horrible.
And it possibly could have been just a way to squander money from Bob Minton. So, allegedly. I know Peter Alexander has been known to sue people over things related to this movie. So allegedly sue people. Allegedly, everything I just said was allegedly. Everything was allegedly. So
allegedly, people have said.
Yeah. The movie is available. It's in leaked formats all over the internet, which is how we're going to view it because it's not available anywhere. Even Peter Alexander doesn't want it released. So
it's not even like worse than the it's worse than the Christmas special for Star Wars.
Yes.
It's even harder to find.
But instead of being themed around Star Wars, it's themed around Scientology. Allegedly. So those are the two movies. We're leaving it up to you. If you guys don't choose, we'll just flip a coin, I guess.
Yeah.
But the movie that
we'll maybe find something even more horrible that we can form a united opinion on.
Yeah. But for this week, we decided to go with a less terrible film called Men at Work.
Men at Work.
Yeah.
And this is interesting as a cultural oddity because this was Emilio Estevez's first real movie that he directed. He's directed some other things, but they're like kind of weird, artsy things. Mm-hmm. And this is the first movie that Emilio and Charlie, his actual brother, both were in for most of the movie. They were in a few other little movies for like short bits, for like little cameos. And Charlie was in Young Guns 1, but then he got killed. And Emilio was the star of that movie. And just look at that picture of Charlie Sheen right now and try to imagine current year Charlie Sheen and think, this is what lives of cocaine and hookers might do to you. You look like this before cocaine and hookers, and then go look at a picture of current Charlie Sheen now.
Yeah,
it's not good.
Hashtag winning.
Yeah. Clearly, looking at this picture, he didn't win. He probably lost some. So
the movie is about
Men at Work has a special place for me because it's one of those movies I had a like nostalgia thing for, even though.
So this was your Biodome.
This was my Biodome, kind of, yes. So
Biodome was my Biodome.
Exactly. So I in hindsight, the movie was not that good, but it has less really uncomfortable moments.
I don't know. So there wasn't a big attempted rape scene like there was in Biodome, but
there was an implied rape.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So we're in a suburb of San Diego, and there's some corruption going on with the local paint thinner company trying to dump its toxic waste because the late 80s and early 90s, we're all totally concerned about toxic waste. That's a horrible environmental problem.
And also corporations bad.
Corporations bad. And there's a corrupt politician who is being bribed by the corporations, but he's going to do the right thing. And oh, by the way, he happens to also be running for mayor. So, I mean, I'm sure he's not wanting to do the right thing to try to win over the voters' trust. But our slacker heroes have nothing to do with this plot. They're just two random dumbasses who are garbage men, who have a dream of a lot of slackers in Southern California of opening up a surf shop. But they're not even good at that.
Yeah.
And they're not good at being garbage men. They're just kind of terrible at it. And one day the politician gets angry at his girlfriend because she accidentally took his blackmail tape, and Charlie Sheen shoots him with a BB gun, and that starts the chain of absurd... Pellet gun, excuse me.
Yeah.
Because BB gun's a specific brand, right?
No, BB guns shoot little ball bearings. Pellet guns, I think they can shoot either or. Some of them shoot either or. Pellet guns, the little pellets are like little metal things, and they almost kind of look like flattened rooks on a chessboard. So they have a little point to them, and they hurt a whole lot more. I've been shot by both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this starts a series of absurd events. And that's what the movie is when it comes down to a series of absurd events that happen to two incredibly good-looking guys who can't get their lives together. They have a decent apartment, and they also have a high-paying union job. But we don't see the union involved in it because that would make the movie's plot make less sense and possibly not even happen. I'm going to assign my crazy ex-Vietnam vet brother-in-law to ride around and watch you. Whoa, I'm going to have the union steward approve that.
Yeah.
That seems like a non-contractually approved disciplinary action there.
Yeah. Oh, there you are.
And what's your thoughts about the movie?
So the humor didn't work, which is the death note
but it didn't work for a different reason than Biodome. This
Right.
was not humor. This was not humor that was belligerent and offensive. This was not humor that was trying to make you angry. It wasn't not good.
Yeah, it was just not funny. Whereas Biodome was trying to be funny by being absolutely, for lack of a better word, retarded. This was just like, oh, we're gonna try to make a joke. Oh, it didn't land. Oh, we're gonna make a joke here. It didn't land. Which is the death note for any kind of comedy. If you have a comedy where they're just being absolutely retarded, you can kind of enjoy it to say like, look at these people look how retarded this movie is.
Yeah,
it's amazing how movies. This doesn't work.
Especially if you're taking substances before you go to see the movie.
Right.
So, like, there was a joke about phrenology that I kind of liked, but that's because I was a weird nerd and knew what phrenology was.
Yeah.
And
that was a weird choice because he came up with that because she caught him in the hallway, and he was like, "Oh, I'm rich."
It was originally in a Trivial Pursuit game that happened earlier.
Oh yeah, okay. Still, it's an interesting kind of point to bring up in the movie.
Let's talk about the best character, the crazy ex-Vietnam veteran brother-in-law character.
Yeah, who has PTSD flashbacks.
I don't think they're flashbacks, though he did actually have one flashbacks. I think they're flashed on all the time. He was making heavy metal drawings of like people being blown up and like a military-grade garbage truck. And one of the reasons I have like nostalgia for the movie, like when I first saw it, I do that in my notebook at school. I draw that. I related to what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he didn't like the cops. And he seemed to know a whole lot about things like ligature strangulation.
What I thought was interesting about this is like at the first maybe 15, 20 minutes of the movie, they really kind of hit on a lot of like 80s, early 90s nostalgia, almost to the point where you could believe the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie was a modern period piece about the early 90s, late 80s.
Like, you would think this would be a movie that Netflix or Hulu or Amazon might make.
It was almost reminiscent of mid-90s, which is a great movie, which we reviewed a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Where it was trying to be like a period piece. Like, almost blatant. Like, hey, cassette tapes. Hey, Jolt Cola. Things like that. We're just like, that's so late 80s, early 90s. And It's just rubbing your nose in it. Whereas Biodome, even though it was taking place in the mid-90s, it was just like, those were just elements in it because that's the context of the era that it was being filmed in, where you can kind of be like, okay, I can understand it. But this was just like rubbing your nose like, hey, remember 80s, or do you remember cassette tapes? I thought that was fun.
Something interesting about this movie is this movie had product placement from actual products like Budweiser and Jägermeister and Breyers or Dyer's ice cream.
Yeah.
Whereas Biodome had fake junk food and fake pizza place and fake pizza place soda.
Yeah.
So this movie actually had companies that wanted to associate with it. That's because, Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez were both fairly big, young, popular stars at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you think about the recurring making police officers be posed in gay sex positions gag?
Okay, before I get into that, I'm gonna just say like Budweiser or Jägermeister had the upper end in that deal because they got their product featured because
a lot.
There was one particular scene where there was a Weekend at Bernie moments where they find the dead body and pretend like it's still alive.
And they're drinking Jaeger to take the edge off.
At work. So you have You have loser people trying to hide a dead body while drinking on the job. Drink Jägermeister. It's the fucking drink of these types of people. They got the upper end in that deal.
I'm just saying though, Jim, is that really wrong? Is that really a wrong person? But the only reason that they had their Weekend at Bernie's moment is because the crazy Vietnam vet was there keeping them in their job. That's how I mentally try to wrap my head around the fact that they don't say to the police, "Hey, we found this candidate for mayor dead in a thing here.
Yeah.
Maybe you should, call the police to actually look at this. We're going to go off and be garbage men somewhere else."
Yeah. That would have ended the movie, though.
That would have ended the movie. But actually, interestingly enough, that was the only real moment like that where people behaving normally would have prevented the movie from happening.
Yeah.
Also, kind of interesting.
Even though they were losers and stupid, I still didn't believe that would actually happen, though.
What?
That they would try to pass off a dead body as being a person, and
that was not intelligent. That was a poorly decided idea.
Yeah. Even for stupid people would not do this.
Yeah. And there was another thing you commented on. Why are the police fighting with the garbage men? That was something that never really focused on because, I just figured we're making fun of the police because they're the authority figures.
Yeah. I think they were trying to paint it off as like, here's various government workers, and there's definitely a hierarchy in these government working positions. So of course the police are going to pick on those lonely garbage guys, but that's not how mafia works.
That is not how mafia works. Another example, that's not how mafia works. A crazed black Vietnam veteran with what reasonably would have been considered a gun to a police officer pointing it at somebody's head doesn't get shot right away.
Yeah.
In late 1980s, early 1990s Los Angeles / San Diego.
Yeah.
No, he would have been dead.
Yeah.
That's the other area. That's the second part.
He would have pulled the gun out and put it against his head, and they would have said, "Drop the gun," and he would have said, like, "No, you drop the gun." He wouldn't have even finished that sentence.
Boom. Dead. No more movie. They also had something that I thought was interesting as a cultural artifact. They had 2 white guy Rastafarians. Whatever happened to those people? Like the white people.
Happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like a weird little cultural artifact. So like whenever I see white guys with dreads, I'm always like kind of like going, "Whoa, that's still a thing?"
Yeah. I think this was at the very beginning of that. This is the late 80s, early 90s. So we got to see the last of that in Biodome because Doyle was one of those sort of
kind of.
He was like the MTV hippie kind of combination of those. High energy stoner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that I was kind of confused about that was written into the script that I don't know if it was written this way or they just did it because that was what was available. They were making a hangover cure of leftover coffee, ice cream, Jägermeister, and Tylenol. That would not have tasted good.
No.
Not in the, you're drinking something terrible to fight off a hangover not tasting good. No, that just would have really been just rancid and awful.
Yeah. I will offer this recipe if you're really interested. Jägermeister, root beer, ice cream. Jägermeister root beer float.
It's delicious.
Yes. Jägermeister does go well with root beer because root beer tastes like Jägermeister. So, there's that. It's basically concentrated root beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the movie ends interestingly enough because they take a pizza guy hostage during the progress of the series of shenanigans. And we hear the radio DJ, which they open the movie with, talking to the girlfriend of the pizza guy, going, "My boyfriend didn't come home last night. I think he's cheating on me." Well, you should totally dump the dude. That was a weird choice to me for where you end your movie.
That was radio in the 90s, though.
It was totally radio in the 90s, but that was just a weird place to end your movie.
Yeah, and then it ended up it ended up getting better later on when Loveline came, but that's what JJ's used to do.
Oh, Loveline was great, though.
Yeah, Loveline was great.
And another
Love Line
important thing-
fixed that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, another important element of the movie is it stresses don't steal another man's French fry as one of its moral lessons.
Yes.
And I think that's something we can all agree on.
Yeah. There's nothing more sacred in this world than a bond between a man and his French fries. And you just don't bridge it. You just don't.
You just don't.
You just don't.
And they have a Warner Brothers gag ending with the evil businessman, which I was watching Best of the Worst with the recently, and they have a thing like, they're filming, they're running out of money, so like you can tell that they lost all steam at that point in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, oh no.
Yeah. Also, this is also one of those movies that probably wouldn't get made now because there was a big pun that the third act of the film where they tie a couple of those same police officers to a merry-go-round, not a carnival merry-go-round, but like a playground merry-go-round, in a very sexually implying position while they're in their underwear, and the joke was, "Ha, you're gay."
Also, later a dog pees on them
because they're gay.
Exactly.
Because they're gay, and they made it a big point. And I'm not saying that because that's pretty funny. Like, no, when the dog comes up, they were trying to explain to the dog it's not what it looks like. We're not really gay. Because dog, and the dog was like, "No, you're gay," and peed on him.
Yeah,
this was a thing that actually happened in this world.
This was decided to happen in a movie.
Yes.
Now, I mean, you could actually make this movie a lot better. Something you commented on. The movie wanted to be a serious crime thriller drama sort of thing some places, and it wanted to be a goofy comedy in other places.
Yeah, it had to pick one or go full bore in both. And it didn't, it didn't want to do any one of those three things. It didn't want to be a full-on comedy. It didn't want to be a serious crime drama. It didn't want to mock serious crime dramas by being funny. It was just like, let's just jump around.
Which was an excellent song by Criss Cross, which came out later.
That was not Criss Cross.
Oh, who does Jump? Oh, Jump Around's House of Pain. Oh my God!
Yeah.
I can't believe that was a mistake. I'm going to blame the fact midnight here. I'm going to blame that fact for that horrible mistake. I just oopsie doopsie.
Yeah, Criss Cross was jump up and get down. Yeah.
Maybe I've heard like a mix of. Maybe I've heard a mix of those two together, and that's what.
No! Jump up and get down. That was House of Pain. Holy shit! Yeah. We're both having a stroke. Do you smell toast? I smell toast.
Oh wait! I have toast in my pocket. So yeah, we're coming up into February where we're going to have the start of some serious actual movies in the theater movies, and Jim and I are going to try to make an effort to both see them before the show. Like Battle Angel Alita is one of the big ones coming up that it's going to be a thing everybody's going to be talking about.
Yeah, fuck you, it's January is over. Hooray. We can go back to watching movies again.
And actually, let me pull up information on the internet and just talk about some of the wonderful things coming up in February.
So while that's doing that, I'm going to play the very intro to The Prophet. So you can get a taste. No, I said of current time. Jerk butt. There we go. So you get an idea of what we might be looking at in terms of The Prophet.
I mean, these are both really terrible. And they're not terrible in the good way, like some of the bad movies that have been on Best of the Worst. They're terrible in a bad way, like movies that have been on Best and the Worst.
Yeah. I don't want to play too much more of that, otherwise we might get hit with the copyright, because it is playing a very popular 80s movie. There's a popular 80s song. But I will play...
God, those effects are so terrible. Like, God, that's really bad.
Yeah. So then we have that, or we can play the Red Letter Media movie 43 review while you're pulling that up.
I'd like to ask
you. At the same time.
Which is by far the best half in the bag ever.
Will you
It is. So, coming up in February, we have the second Lego movie. I'm not really that into that, but that could be a big movie. We have What Men Want, which is a candidate for being terrible. We have Happy Death Day to You. I didn't actually like the first Happy Death Day, but looking at the trailer, it's just like, kind of horror movie. I'm not super into horror movies. But the previews for Happy Death Day to You seem really good, though. Also on Thursday the 14th, Battle Angel Alita comes out. That's gonna be huge.
I don't know if you're looking at the stream right now.
But I am.
Okay. Or I have it paused.
Jay without facial hair.
Yeah.
Keep forgetting how Jay looked without facial hair. And also, the last of the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy is going to be out in February. Those are going to be the bigger movies that are going to be out in a theater near you. So we're probably going to be looking at some of those, but the Scientology movie is probably going to be one that I'm going to have more fun with, honestly. Because this isn't a bunch of good actors blowing a studio's money. Well,
no, they're not doing it. They're contractually obligated to do it. You can tell they really don't want to. They really don't want to.
It's kind of like in Holmes and Watson. Nobody looked like they were having a good time in that movie.
Except for Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly were.
I don't know. That whole Weekend at Bernie's scene with Queen Victoria was pretty gross.
That's been a reoccurring theme lately, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Pretending for
how influential Weekend at Bernie's is.
I don't know if you can see the stream where it's paused now. Though that's time.
Yeah,
time to cut up. Okay, yeah. This is my favorite review for Half in the Bag they've ever done.
Yeah. So I kind of still want to see The Prophet because we could probably have something more interesting talking about how it's a movie no one was able to get out because of all the lawsuit hilarity and threats of the Church of Scientology. And then we could talk about The Master with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Let's do that. Do you want to watch we'll do a double feature. A terrible movie and a movie that everybody thinks is terrible, but is actually a fucking brilliant masterpiece.
Yeah, but I mean, I really love that movie, especially since I knew immediately as soon as I saw it, oh shit, this is about Scientology. Yeah. This shit's about to be good.
Actually, it's almost like a polar opposite. You have a movie that everybody thought was going to be a brilliant film, which was being suppressed by the Church of Scientology, versus a movie that everybody says is absolutely terrible, but is actually a brilliant masterpiece, so no one saw it. So both two movies that no one saw.
About the Church of Scientology, I'm just saying body thieves are probably responsible.
With inverse perceptions, at least one before it came out, now we know it's bad. With inverse perceptions.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. Okay. That's the plan.
And I'm fine with watching The Master, again, completely fine with it.
Because that's a good movie. The Master is actually one of my favorite movies. Because of that scene where you have like this guy who's L. Ron Hubbard's, imaginary view of himself drinking moonshine with the actual L. Ron Hubbard.
I'm going to buy it on Blu-ray right now. Buy now.
Because you want to have a copy of that forever in your collection. Well, through our process today, we've determined what our next horrible movie is going to be. And we're also going to review a classic good movie from the past that you all should watch. And that, I think, does it for another episode of Recording in Progress in the can.
Yep.
How long have we been doing this now?
We started in late September, but we were also producing stuff even before then. But it was always like Patreon editions, test runs, which are unlisted. They're unlisted, but you can still find them if you go to the YouTube channel and look up the playlist for all of the episodes. If you go down to the very bottom, you'll see ones that say like test. They're unlisted, but you can watch them there. They're there. So
how many hours of footage do we need to actually have before we can apply to get monetized? Because I know that's one of the standards.
Yeah, we have to have, before we can even think about that, which we're on the right track. We don't have to worry about the viewing thing. That's going to be a thing. But the problem is the subscriber count. We're only a quarter of what we need.
Oof.
Gotta have 1,000 subs. So smash that motherfucking subscribe button.
Exactly.
Ding that motherfucking bell.
Hit the bell. Hit the notify. And next week I will have a formal announcement about the Subscribe Star page for the channel.
Yeah.
We're going to be transitioning off of Patreon because Patreon's doing some dirty things, and we don't want to be involved with that anymore.
And my main thing for my other stuff, I'm already on Subscribestar, and they approved me, so I'm good to go on that. I already got 2 subscribers on there, and I got to figure out a way to refund people's money on Patreon because this month rolled around, people are already subscribing, so
yeah,
they're probably just going to get the memo. So I had to buy. So most people already jumped off already.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to contact all the people who still paid and be like, do you want your money back or what do you want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I have a scheme. I'm going to try to see if I can pull it off and get us a very special guest for Star Wars Episode 9.
Ooh.
We might want to have a test guest before we do that. Just so we can see how a guest works in our dynamic. I don't know if this person's going to say yes, but I'm going to try to see if I can get him on here. Normally, he does things more specialized. I'm saying, listen, I want you to be here. And also, I think probably when we get episode 9, we might want to just do like a special recording that's just talking about that.
Yeah.
Like, because we've had all this angst from The Last Jedi built up. And I'm hoping and praying that Star Wars Episode 9 is, at a very minimum, a release. You know, not a release.
I'd be fine with an apology.
I'm not even hoping for an apology. I'm hoping it's a, like, you know, you have your elderly relative on their sick bed dying, say it's okay, you can go into the light now, kind of a moment.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for something that's my floor of my hope for Star Wars right now, is that, you know, Star Wars can go into the light, and maybe in a couple of years after some corporate restructuring, people who can actually treat Star Wars well restart it. But I'm going to try to see if we can get a special guest for that, somebody who is a Star Wars fan but is on another end of the spectrum, and I think that might be interesting. Awesome. But again, he's kind of a bigger deal. He's also out in your time zone, so I'm going to try to see if we can negotiate that now, you know, work 10 months for a countdown. But if we do that, we have to...
Oh, so they're not going to do the May the 5th thing or May the 4th thing anymore? With their movies?
No. They're going to do that, but the movie's still premiering in December.
Oh.
But
no,
yeah,
I'm talking about, like, I remember they were saying, like, oh, we're going to move it to May.
Yeah, no, they're still good for December. It's still part of Disney's long-term strategy. So I'm going to see if he would be willing to do that, because I think that might be compelling. It might be interesting for him to not be in his weird scholarly wheelhouse about Star Wars stuff, but actually just be a Star Wars fan, and then being able to encapsulate the weirdness of current year Star Wars.
Fun. I'm still not going to watch the prequels.
Well, yeah, but you know, there's some good things there. There are some good things, like the Clone Wars series was pretty good.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, signing out.
Yep. Worms.